You cannot just go to the IPs and approach them and say, hey, you, I want you to be...
No.
Kailangan po may proseso
So,
talaga.
ang sinasabi ng DNR, hindi sila magpo-provide ng information na yun, kundi yung PAMBI. Kasi sila yung nag-approve na yun ng member ng PAMBI.
Exactly.
So, the DNR cannot produce that document. It's the PAMBI.
Yes.
Of
The PAMBI,
Masungi.
yes, the PAMBI are the ones, base po dun sa batas na binanggit po kanina.
Kaso ang member ng PAMBI, hindi naman lang DNR. Marami. Oo, may local government.
There's an issue, Madam President, good sponsor. Since meron pong issue ng ancestral domain at ang IPs po dapat dito ay ginagalang, nirespeto, recognize. So kailangan po talaga kasama sila doon po sa pagbuo nitong PAMBI Board of Directors para doon sa isang project.
Opo.
Okay. Now, sabi ko rito, sabi sa batas ng IPs, dapat po tinatawag na selection process at dumadaan po yan sa IPS. Tribal leaders ang pumipili kung sino sa kanilang kamiyembro ang pwede, binibigyan ng authority ang pwedeng mag-witness o maging member ng PAMBI. Hindi po pwedeng basta-basta lang po natin ituturo kung sino dyan sa protection po ito ng mga IPs kasi kayo na po mismo Madam President and your good sponsor, kayo po mismo nagsabi kanina, alam niyo naman yung IPs madaling ma-influensyon kaya nga po we have this, Madam President,
power dyan,
Madam President,
DNR.
Mr.
PAMBI.
Kaya nga po we have this.
Suspended. Maybe just request, well, of course, Your Honor, the sponsor, can we allow her please to continue? And you will give you all the time to ask a question.
Madam President, ako munang magsalita kasi I'm explaining Tinagaw niyo po yung time ko I was the one explaining and my witness is the
We
minority leader.
suspend session for a minute.
Marami na pong ipinupukol sa atin. Pati po pagkahit ng bigote, ginawang issue. Yung akin pong asawa, ginawan din ng issue tungkol sa kanyang pagbabitamina. Pati po yung issue na ayaw ko mag-English na napunta pa sa I move. Ang dami pong ibinintang sa atin pero wala po isa dyan tungkol sa pagnanakaw. Hindi po tayo kailanman na pinagbintangan sa usapin niya. Ako po ay walang absent sa Senado. Ang akin pong ginagawa ay sa trabaho ko, pero yung aking mga staff nagre-reklamo na, hindi na namin trabaho to, pero ba't namin ginagawa? Dahil pa kaya kung ano man po yung mga issue na pinupukul sa akin, wag po kayo sanang maapektuhan. Dahil lahat po yan, intriga lang. Showbiz. Hindi ko po maintindihan, hindi siya makawala sa bandang lalaki ko. Yun na lang lagi ang issue patungkol doon. Kaya sana, wag po kayong maapektuhan. Pagdating po sa politika, alam ko naman po na ako po'y nagtatrabaho at hindi po nasasayang ang inyong boto at ang pondong ibinibigay niyo po sa akin bilang senador.
And may I call the attention?
President and the good sponsor, yes, kasi once na ginamit niyo po yung IPs, meron pong batas ang IPs sa pamagitan ng tribal group nila. You cannot just go to the IPs and approach them and say, hey, you, I want you to be...
No.
Kailangan po may proseso
So,
talaga.
ang sinasabi ng DNR, hindi sila magpo-provide ng information na yun, kundi yung PAMBI. Kasi sila yung nag-approve na
Kaya
yun
nga
ng
po,
member ng PAMBI.
exactly.
So, the DNR cannot produce that document. It's the PAMBI.
Yes,
Of
Madam President.
the
The PAMBI,
Masungi.
yes, the PAMBI are the ones, base po dun sa batas na binanggit po kanina.
Kaso ang member ng PAMBI, hindi naman lang DNR. Marami. Oo, may local
but since
government.
there's an
may
issue,
NGO.
Madam President, good sponsor, since meron pong issue ng ancestral domain at ang IPs po dapat dito ay ginagalang, nirespeto, recognize. So kailangan po talaga kasama sila doon po sa pagbuo nitong PAMBI Board of Directors para doon sa isang project.
Opo.
Okay. Now, sabi ko rito, sabi sa batas ng IPs, dapat meron pong tinatawag na selection process at dumadaan po yan sa IPS. Tribal leaders ang pumipili kung sino sa kanilang kamiyembro ang pwede, binibigyan ng authority ang pwedeng mag-witness o maging member ng PAMBI. Hindi po
PAMBI,
pwedeng basta-basta lang po natin
hindi.
ituturo kung sino dyan sa protection po ito ng mga IPs kasi kayo na po mismo Madam President and your good sponsor, kayo na mismo nagsabi kanina, alam niyo naman yung IPs madaling ma-influensyon kaya nga po we have this, kaya
PAMBI,
Madam President,
power dyan,
Madam President,
DNR.
Mr.
PAMBI.
Kaya nga po we have this.
Suspended. Maybe just request, both, of course, Your Honor, the sponsor, can we allow her please to continue? And we will give you all the time to ask a
No,
question.
Madam President,
Yes.
ako munang magsalita kasi I'm explaining eh. Tinagaw niyo po yung time ko eh. I was the one explaining and my witness is the
We
minority leader.
suspend session for a minute.
Marami na pong ipinupukol sa atin. Pati po pag-ahit ng bigote, ginawang issue. Yung akin pong asawa, ginawan din ng issue tungkol sa kanyang pagbabitamina. Pati po yung issue na ayaw ko mag-Ingles na napunta pa sa I move. Ang dami pong ibinintang sa atin pero wala po isa dyan tungkol sa pagnanakaw. Hindi po tayo kailanman na pinagbintangan sa usapin niya. Ako po ay walang absent sa Senado. Ang akin pong ginagawa ay extra. Marami po akong ginagawang extra. Wala na sa trabaho ko. Pero yung aking mga staff, nagre-reklamo na, hindi na namin trabaho to, pero ba't namin ginagawa? Dahil public servant po ako, binoto nyo ako bilang pagsilbihan ngayon. Kaya kung ano man po yung mga issue na pinupukul sa akin, wag po kayo sanang maapektuhan. Dahil lahat po yan, intriga lang. Showbiz. Hindi ko po maintindihan, hindi sila makawala sa gandang lalaki ko. Yun lang lagi ang issue patungkol doon. Kaya sana, wag po kayo maapektuhan. Pagdating po sa politika, alam ko naman po na ako po'y nagtatrabaho at hindi po nasasayang ang inyong boto at ang pondong ibinibigay niyo po sa akin bilang senador. Swel.
And may I call the attention of Miss Cynthia Corion that we've been here working at 9 o'clock in the morning, waiting for all departments' budget, the budget of departments to be deliberated upon. We are doing our job, and no one has the right to tell us to stop talking here. It is our duty and our job to perform our work here in the Senate. And you do not have the right to tell us what to do here. Imagine telling the Senate President, we've been here at 1 o'clock waiting for DOTC's budget to be heard. We've been working since last week, deliberating all the budgets of the departments here. And telling the Deputy Minority Leader to stop asking questions. Kami nga, kahit matagal nagtanong si Senator, we never dared to ask her to stop asking questions. Who are you to tell us to stop asking questions? Remember, if one of us tells the sponsor to defend the budget of DOT, what will happen to you? You cannot do anything. You cannot do anything here. If I move to defend your budget, or to slash the budget of DOT, because of your actuations and because of your actions towards my colleagues here, what will happen to the budget of DOT? Imagine, even Senator Pia Cayetano, you've been texting her even before. That's what I heard from her regarding EJ Obiena's performance. She's a senator, she's a lawyer, she knows what to do. She's a senior member here in this House chamber. You've been a member of PSP, am I right? So you know how the budget runs here in the Senate, or even in Congress. You know, we spend 3 hours of the morning here.
I need a list and I need the
They will submit to you those who signed. Kasi pero yan, I'm warning you that yan, majority wins. Di ba? Kahit na hindi pumirman lahat, kung majority
President and the good sponsor. Yes, kasi once na ginamit niyo po yung eyepiece, meron pong batas ang eyepiece sa pamagitan ng tribal group nila. You cannot just go to the eyepiece and approach them and say, hey, you, I want you to be...
No.
Kailangan po may proseso
So,
talaga.
ang sinasabi ng
This is the law.
DNR, hindi sila magpo-provide ng information na yon, kundi yung PAMBI. Kasi sila yung nag-approve na
Kaya
yun
nga
ng
po,
member ng PAMBI.
exactly.
So, the DNR cannot produce that document. It's the PAMBI.
Yes,
Of
Madam President.
the
The PAMBI,
Masungi.
yes, the PAMBI are the ones, base po dun sa batas na binanggit po kanina,
Kaso ang member ng PAMBI, hindi naman lang DNR. Marami. Oo, may
Yeah,
local
but since
government.
there's an
may
issue,
NGO.
Madam President, good sponsor, since meron pong issue ng ancestral domain at ang IPs po dapat dito ay ginagalang, nirespeto, recognize. So kailangan po talaga kasama sila doon po sa pagbuo nitong PAMBI Board of Directors para doon sa isang project.
Opo.
Okay. Now, sabi ko rito, sabi sa batas ng IPs, dapat meron po tinatawag na selection process at dumadaan po yan sa IPS. Tribal leaders ang pumipili kung sino sa kanilang kamiyembro ang pwede, binibigyan ng authority ang pwedeng mag-witness o maging member ng PAMBI. Hindi po
PAMBI,
pwedeng basta-basta lang po natin
hindi.
ituturo kung sino dyan sa protection po ito ng mga IPs kasi kayo na po mismo Mr. President, Madam President and your good sponsor, kayo po mismo nagsabi kanina, alam niyo naman yung IPs madaling ma-influensyan kaya nga po we have this, kaya,
PAMBI,
Madam President,
power dyan,
Madam President,
DNR.
Mr.
PAMBI.
Kaya nga po we have this.
Suspended, maybe just request, both, of course, Your Honor, the sponsor, can we allow her please to continue? And we will give you all the time to ask a
No,
question.
Madam President,
Yes.
ako munang magsalita kasi I'm explaining Tinagaw niya po yung time ko I was the one explaining and my witness is the
We
minority leader.
suspend session for a minute.
Marami na pong ipinupukol sa atin. Pati po pag-ahit ng bigote, ginawang issue. Yung akin pong asawa, ginawan din ng issue tungkol sa kanyang pagbabitamina. Pati po yung issue na ayaw ko mag-Ingles na napunta pa sa I move. Ang dami pong ibinintang sa atin pero wala po isa dyan tungkol sa pagnanakaw. Hindi po tayo kailanman na pinagbintangan sa usapin na yan. Ako po ay walang absent sa Senado. Ang akin pong ginagawa ay extra. Marami po akong ginagawang extra. Wala na sa trabaho ko. Pero yung aking mga staff nagrereklamo na, hindi na namin trabaho to, pero ba't namin ginagawa? Dahil public servant po ako, binoto nyo ako bilang pagsilbihan ngayon. Kaya kung ano man po yung mga issue na pinupukul sa akin, wag po kayo sanang maapektuhan dahil lahat po yan intriga lang. Showbiz. Hindi ko po maintindihan, hindi sila makawala sa gandang lalaki ko. Yun lang lagi ang issue patungkol doon. Kaya sana, wag po kayo maapektuhan. Pagdating po sa politika, alam ko naman po na ako po'y nagtatrabaho at hindi po nasasayang ang inyong boto at ang pondong binibigay niyo po sa akin bilang senador. Swel.
And may I call the attention of Miss Cynthia Corion that we've been here working at 9 o'clock in the morning, waiting for all departments' budget, the budget of the departments to be deliberated upon. We are doing our job, and no one has the right to tell us to stop talking here. It is our duty and our job to perform our work here in the Senate. And you do not have the right to tell us what to do here. Imagine telling the Senate President, we've been here at 1 o'clock waiting for DOTC's budget to be heard. We've been working since last week, deliberating on all the budgets of the departments here. And telling the Deputy Minority Leader to stop asking questions. Kami nga, kahit matagal magtanong si Senator Risa, we never dared to ask her to stop asking questions. Who are you? Who are you to tell us to stop asking questions? Remember, if one of us tells the sponsor to defer the budget of DOT, what will happen to you? You cannot do anything. You cannot do anything here. If I move to defer your budget or to slash the budget of DOT because of your actuations and because of your actions towards my colleagues here, what will happen to the budget of DOT? Imagine, even Senator Pia Cayetano, you've been texting her even before. That's what I heard from her regarding EJ Obiena's performance. She's a senator, she's a lawyer, she knows what to do. She's a senior member here in this August chamber. You've been a member of PSC, am I right? So you know how the budget runs here in the Senate or even in Congress. You know we spend wee hours of the morning here. Am I correct? And why are you complaining? The secretary is not complaining. She's a neophyte secretary. She never complained. Who are you to complain?
Masungi, I need a list of those people
Kami nga.
and their signatures. And very
They,
important to me is yung pong IPs. Meron po bang pumirma na IPs?
Meron ba?
Meron? I need a list and I need the
They will submit to you those who signed.
What? But right now,
Kasi pero ho yan, I'm warning you that yan, majority wins. Di ba? Kahit na hindi pumirman lahat, kung majority pumirma, panalo yun. Oh.
I know. Pero ang selection process ninyo, kailangan meron pong IPs.
Ayun,
po.
pina-follow.
Kaya nga, paano po sinelect yung IPs? May I know?
Oh.
From the experts?
Baka hindi naman pumirma yung eyepiece. Alam nyo, miski eyepiece, ano din yan eh. Nai-influence din yan eh.
Ay, dapat hindi.
Eh nako, tell it to the Marines.
Sorry. Tell it to the Marines. Dapat hindi po. Kasi, kawawa na po yung mga IPs.
sa
Kulang nga po.
legislated protected area,
Yeah.
nangyayari yan. Yung mga barangay, nai-influence eh.
Kawawa naman po yung mga IPs. Kulang nga po sa pinag-aralan, kulang po sa kaalaman. And then, exploit po natin because we're saying na madali silang ma-influensyan. Dapat we try to help them to make sure that they will not be easily influenced so that gagawin po nila po anong tama para sa kanilang proteksyon.
Oo nga,
Ma-displace yung ating IPs para ma-exploit po yung ating mga lupain at masisira po yung ating tubig, ilog, mga puno, etc. Yun po yung point ko.
sabi,
And again, I don't disagree with you na kailangan din natin yung mining.
indicate.
Pero dapat responsible mining at dapat sa tamang lokasyon. At kapag marami po nagreklamong mga Pilipino, pakinggan po natin. In fact, pati po yung mga foreigner, third party na gumawa po ng auditing, sila mismo ay nag-oppose na hindi dapat ituloy yung siya na gold, pero pinagpipilitan po natin. Madam Sponsor. Okay na tayo po dyan. Now, last but not the least, ito na po yung sinasabi niyo kanina. Masungi Conservation Area, Ancestral Domain.
Sabi sa'yo, last but not the least, the Masuni. Okay.
Bakit po pinayagan ang isang wind farm na magtayo doon po sa Masungi Conservation Area na meron pong ancestral domain issue?
Talaga pong there's something wrong with the contract with Masungi. Kasi hindi ho pwede yung perpetual.
No, I'm not sorry. Let me interrupt. Para hindi na masayang oras natin. I'm not talking about Masungi Foundation. I'm not talking. Mamaya na po natin pag-usapan yun later. What I'm talking is just the Masungi Conservation Area. Not the foundation. So, despite the fact na ito po ay declared as ancestral domain at meron pong nagkiklaim ng mga IPs at under proclamation number 1636, it was declared as a sanctuary, wildlife sanctuary and game preserve at hindi po dapat pwedeng panghimasukan ng anumang commercial activities, explorations, exploitations, etc. Dahil marami po mga ibon dyan at mga halaman na endemic po sa Pilipinas.
In 2020, a proposal to measure the potential of wind energy was given to us by the Pacquiao. Yes, measure them.
What are we talking here about the wind energy that they want to do in Masungi?
The wind farm,
Mr. President?
the Bena, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor, the Bena Energy is what I'm talking about. The Bena Energy that was given permit by PAMBI to put up their structure.
Ayun.
You met mas po sa measuring
In fact, if I may add, while you're doing your research, DNR Administrative Order number 33, okay, May 10, 1993. Masungi Rock and its vicinity specifically bounded by longitudes 121 degrees, 17 degrees to 121 degrees, 21 east, west, anyway, etc. It says here, declared a strict nature reserve and wildlife sanctuary in accordance with the provision of RA 7586, otherwise known as National Integrated Protected Area System Act of 1992. At wala pa pong bagong DAO or Department or DNR Administrative Order or na magsusupersede nito.
Sabi po, wind
It was signed
energy,
Mr. Secretary Alcala. I'm sorry, Madam President.
Mr. President, sabi po, yung wind energy is allowed because it's
Multiple use.
renewable energy. But wala pa daw permit yan. Parang mag-i-study pa lang kung ano yung potential ng wind energy. Yun lang ang ibinigay nila. They cannot operate yet. Parang yung PAMBI, ang ibinigay lang is a study of the potential of the wind energy in Masungi.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't be. Dapat in the first place, wala pong gagawing study doon kasi naghukay na po eh. Marami na pong structure doon. And I have pictures to show. What are the pictures?
Ang sabi po nila, yung PAMBI, binigay lang is to determine the wind energy. May conflict po eh. Ewan lang natin kung yung binigyan ng permit to measure the potential of wind energy, kung disobey nila na nagawa na sila doon. Pero it is based on a study lang.
Madam President, meron na po mga struktura doon. Nag-umpisa na sila na maglalagay ng
Part ba yun ng Masungi?
wind farm doon.
Yung nilagay daw po doon, hindi part ng Masungi, sa Pililla daw yun. It's not part of the legislated protected area. Yung
Yes.
pinaglagyan ng mga improvements na yun. It's beyond the legislated protected area.
I'll help you, Madam Sponsor. What happened was, ginamit ng PAMBI yung Section 25 ng Republic Act 11038, INIPAS 2018 as amended. What does it say doon po sa Section 25? Special uses with protected areas.
Assumption yun.
So nagkaroon po, because of PAMBI, inigam po yung PAMBI sa batas na ito, nagkaroon ng amendment na para ideklara kahit isang protected area na into multi-use. And this has to be amended. Kasi it runs contrary to the spirit of the law protecting.
They want
Our
to
environment.
study and investigate what happened because of your contention. Can you give us yung study nyo para a copy lang of the study so they can investigate kung there was a violation of the law?
The area kasi is a strict protected zone, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor. And having said that, DNR should know better na if it's a strictly protected zone, hindi dapat nila panghimasukan yan.
Eh, nagagalit siya kasi
Hindi dapat nila inisip kahit ba renewable energy na manghimasok yan. I don't have any problem with renewable energy
parang
na para mag-proliferate sa bansa natin because me being the chairman of the Committee on Energy, payag po ako sa renewable energy pero dapat ilagay natin sa lugar. Huwag po doon sa mga protected area. Especially po na meron pong mga ancestral domain issue na dahil misplaced po yung mga IPs natin na walang mga boses at walang mga kalaban-laban, pinapalayas doon sa kanilang ancestral domain. Dahil sa ngalan ng development, aka salapi.
The point of view of the DNR is in every protected area there is a place for strict implementation of the law. They call it the strict protection zone. Tapos there are also areas in the protected area, yung tawag nila multi-purpose, multi-use zone.
Yes.
So hindi naman nila pinayagan doon sa strict protection zone. Doon lang sa multi-use zone.
Exactly.
Ngayon, kung may other complaints na pinaalis yung mga tao, ganun-ganon, then let's have the complaint and we will investigate.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you very much for that answer, Madam Sponsor. That's exactly what I want you to say. Now, ang nangyari kasi, nagkaroon po ng multi-use zone, classify po ng DNR using Section 25 of the ENIPAS law as amended 2018 from Republic Act 7586 of the NIPAS Act of 1992. Now, yan po, hindi ko na pwedeng contest yan dahil batas po yan. Okay? I will not contest. However, nakasaad dito, para ang PAMBI ay payagan na mag-classify ng multi-use sa isang strictly protected area, kailangan, ito na po yung minention nyo kanina, Madam Sponsor, members of the PAMBI Board, which consists of DNR Regional Director, Governor, Senator of the Republic of the Philippines who is duly registered resident of the province, district representative of the congressional district, mayors, chairperson of barangay, regional directors, DA, NEDA, DOST, DND, 3 representatives from NGO or PO, 1 but not more than 3 representatives from IPs. ICCs, and then 1 representative from the academic institution, and finally, 1 representative from the private sector. Now, gusto ko po malaman kung nasunod po ba ito na itong lahat ng nakasulat dito sa Section 11 ng Republic Act 11038 2018 as amended ng INIPAS, kung nasunod po ito ng pagbigay po ng multi-use ng DNR sa wind farm na Bernas Energy. Bena Energy. Kung nasunod po.
Nandyan daw po lahat yan nung magbigay ng permit.
Well, can I see the list? Kung sino tong 11 na ito na pumayag na
Yeah, we will
ma-exploit po yung ating environment doon po sa Masungi.
Sa amin, yun nga mga local mahilig.
I need the list of those people na pumayag na i-exploit natin itong tinatawag nating Masungi Conservation Area na which is declared as a strictly protected area. So itong 11 members na nag-sign, members of the board sa PAMBI allowing exploitation
Local po.
of Masungi, I need a list of those people and their signatures. And very important to me is yung pong IPs. Meron po bang pumirma na IPs?
Meron ba?
Meron? I need a list and I need the
They will submit to you those who signed.
What? But right now,
Kasi pero ho yan, I'm warning you that yan, majority wins. Di ba? Kahit na hindi pumirman lahat, kung majority pumirma, panalo yun. Oh.
I know. Pero ang selection process ninyo, kailangan meron pong IPs.
Ayun, pina-follow.
Kaya nga, paano nyo po sinelect yung IPs? May I know?
Oh.
From the experts?
Baka hindi naman pumirma yung eyepiece. Alam nyo, miski eyepiece, ano din yan eh. Nai-influence din yan eh.
Ay, dapat hindi.
Eh nako, tell it to the Marines.
Sorry. Tell it to the Marines. Dapat hindi po. Kasi kawawa na po yung mga IPs.
sa legislated protected area, nangyayari yan. Yung mga barangay nai-influence eh.
Kawawa naman po yung mga IPs. Kulang nga po sa pinag-aralan, kulang po sa kaalaman. And then exploit po natin because we're saying na madali silang ma-influensyahan. Dapat we try to help them to make sure that they will not be easily influenced so that gagawin po nila po anong tama para sa kanilang proteksyon.
Oo nga, hindi siya maniwala na yung IPC pumirma. Kaya huwag mo na sabihin sa akin, ako alam kong pwede yun, pero siya ayaw niya. Kaya sige mo na lang kung sino yung pumirma. Diba?
I'll help you. Would you mind if I'll help you?
Yeah, you're very welcome, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Kasi bago po mapili ang isa o dalawa o tatlong IPs na sumama po sa PAMBI sa selection process. Number 1, dumadaan yan sa Indigenous Political Structure or IPS. Okay? Ano po yun? It consists of tribal leaders that have exclusive right na para magpadala po ng representative nila kung hindi sila mismo ang sumama doon sa PAMBI. Number 1. Number 2, dapat dumadaan po sa tinatawag na FPIC, Free and Prior Informed Consent. Process ito na ipapakita na itong IPs were not coerced and were not influenced, just like what the good sponsor said na madaling na influence. Kaya nga po papasok itong proseso to make sure na hindi po sila na-influence, hindi po sila na-coerce. Ito po yung FPIC. And finally, evidence to 1 and 2 I mentioned, dapat may certification precondition or CP documents from NCIP pirmado na nagkaroon ng tamang proseso at pumayag ang IPs community. In the absence of these 3, then invalid po yung pag-recruit nyo ng IPs para maging member ng PAMBI's board.
Kasi influence. Ano naman niya eh, precondition na yun. Kaya ano pinayaan? Yes, diba? Ipakita mo na lang yung mga papeles para pa-convince siya. Kasi hindi natin yung pre-condition notion na siya eh, diba? Mr. President, we will just submit all the papers available to the DNR about the action of the PAMBI. We just want to reassure you that it is not yet a permit to operate the windmill. It's just a study to find out the potential of the wind farm here in the legislated.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, good sponsor. Yes, I definitely agree with you. So, I need to see the CP.
Yes.
Certification of Precondition signed by the NCIP. Kahit na testing pa yan, kasi ang nakalagay sa batas, kahit na testing, dapat hindi. Doon sa mga lugar na merong issue sa ancestral domain. Kaya nga po dumadaan doon sa tatlong sinasabi kong steps. Without those, then invalid po yung mga nakapirmang IPs doon. So I need a copy of the CP na pirmado po ng NCIP because kanina lang po tumawag ako sa NCIP, wala po silang pinipirmahan na CP allowing the exploration, the testing of anything whatsoever commercial doon po sa Masungi conservation area. Now, if you cannot show me CP, again, I will defer the budget of the DNR in favor of the IPs.
Can we defer? Do we have time to i-defer? Ano?
Wait. If the sponsor has a query, we suspend session first.
I need the interpellation of Senator Tulfo, and would like to recognize the next interpellator, Senator Rizo Hontiveros. I move that she be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. While the documents are being printed per the request of Senator Tulfo, we will hear the interpellation of Senator Rizo Hontiveros unless unless Senator Tulfo is willing to finish his interpellation pending the submission of the hard copy to him. Okay, Senator Tulfo still has the floor. Let me just clarify that the documents are being printed, but if you will be happy with a soft copy, I saw it, it's 80 pages, and the DNR is in possession of the documents you requested for.
That's it, including the CP?
Everything.
Madam President? The,
All the
application
requirements,
presentation?
all the requirements that you said is contained in the 80-page document, which is being printed, but it would take a while, so we opted to hear the interpellations of Senator Hontiveros. However, if Your Honor would be happy to receive it after your interpellations, I assure you that I saw the soft copy with them, and it's being printed.
Okay. Madam President, this is what I think. Instead of deferring the budget, I will propose for the proper amendments to transfer funds to more deserving agencies, some funds from the DNR. Total, nabanggit po kanina na na-influence po yung mga IPs. So siguro mag-transfer tayo ng funds sa NBI para imbestigahan yung mga nag-influence sa IPs. So NLRC, Legal Education Board, DICT, and DMW. So kung pumayag po yung DNR, so hindi ko na po i-defer ang budget. Basta't pumayag din sila na magkaroon ng amendment para ma-transfer certain amount dun sa kanilang funds, dun sa mga agencies na binanggit ko, sa DMW, DICT, NBI, Legal Education Board, and then NLRC.
Mr. President, in the budgetary process, each department has an amount and the list of programs. Your Honor mentioned many agencies, and perhaps it is our right to amend the budget, and you may submit it, but that is dependent on the subcommittee chair, Senator Villar, and the chairman of the Committee on Finance, and we could vote on it. Because number one, amounts must be made, not just mentioned in generality, and perhaps what programs of a DNR do you want to defund? Perhaps you could ask that of the subcommittee chair. So I understand where you're coming from. You may be frustrated with certain output of certain programs, and that's your prerogative. I've been through that also before. So perhaps you could mention the programs of the DNR that you think don't deserve the funding, and it is up to the chair of the subcommittee and the chair of the finance committee to agree to your recommendation.
I understand, Madam President. Yeah. So I would submit those amounts in the amendments that I would like, that I wish to be transferred to the agencies that I did mention. However, for now, yeah, if the DNR wish to, they can submit to me copies of those documents that they said they're trying to research now, and they are going to show me, especially those last documents that I requested, the certification of precondition signed by the NCIP. Now, if they're saying na meron po silang ganon, then I need the person that will show me the CP na sign ng NCIP, put that person under oath na yan ay valid documents, at kapag napatunayan na hindi valid yan, eh siya po'y makukulong, makakasuhan dahil I just spoke to the NCIP people, main office and regional offices, wala po silang ini-issue'ng CP. Now, kung otherwise sinasabi ng DNR na meron, then let's see.
Yes, we
Sir-
recognize Senator Villar. Yes.
They were the DNR was saying that what the IP signed is to make the study. There is no permit yet to implement the project. So when you cannot ask for the NCIP commitment because that is given when there is a project. But ito parang permit lang to study the project. So ang pumirma lang yung IPs. Yung IP representative.
Kaya nga po, para makapagpirma ang isang IP representative, dumaan po dapat doon sa tatlong process na minention ko po. Number one, dapat may tinatawag na indigenous political structure. Tribal leaders po ang mag-a-assign, mag-designate kung sino ang allowed na mag-represent doon sa tribal group nila. Number two, meron po yung tinatawag na free and prior informed consent to make sure po na ito po yung process ng NCIP to make sure na itong IPs were not influenced and were not coerced. And then finally, dapat po meron pong evidence of 1 and 2 that really happened, certification of precondition. Ito po isang documentation from NCIP to make sure, to ensure na nagkaroon po ng tamang proseso. And this should be signed na pumayag po yung IPs. And this document should be signed by the NCIP committee. Now, sabi niyo po, ang ginagawa ay testing pa lamang. Even though testing pa lamang, dapat po merong paalam sa mga IPs kahit testing pa lamang po yan.
Mr. President, it is not the power of the DNR to appoint the IPs or to see to it that the right IPs are represented in the PAMBI. It's the PAMBI who will decide if they will accept the representation of the IPs. So, hindi po natin marirequire ang DNR doon kasi may right ang PAMBI to choose kung sino ang magiging member ng PAMBIs. It's according to the law.
Madam President and a good sponsor, yes, kasi once na ginamit niyo po yung IPs, meron pong batas ang IPs sa pamagitan ng tribal group nila. You cannot just go to the IPs and approach them and say, hey, you, I want you to be...
No.
Kailangan po may proseso
So,
talaga.
ang sinasabi ng
This is the law.
DNR, hindi sila magpo-provide ng information na yun, kundi yung PAMBI. Kasi sila yung nag-approve na
Kaya
yun
nga
ng
po,
member ng PAMBI.
exactly.
So, the DNR cannot produce that document. It's the PAMBI.
Yes,
Of
Madam
the
President. The PAMBI,
Masungi.
yes, the PAMBI are the ones, base po dun sa batas na binanggit ko kanina.
Kaso ang member ng PAMBI, hindi naman lang DNR. Marami. Oo, may local
but since
government.
there's an
may
issue,
NGO.
Madam President, good sponsor, since meron pong issue ng ancestral domain at ang IPs po dapat dito ay ginagalang, nirespeto, recognize. So kailangan po talaga kasama sila doon po sa pagbuo nitong PAMBI Board of Directors para doon sa isang project.
Opo.
Okay. Now, sabi ko rito, sabi sa batas ng IPs, dapat meron po tinatawag na selection process at dumadaan po yan sa IPS. Tribal leaders ang pumipili kung sino sa kanilang kamiyembro ang pwede, binibigyan ng authority ang pwedeng mag-witness o maging member ng PAMBI. Hindi po
PAMBI,
pwedeng basta-basta lang po natin
hindi.
ituturo kung sino dyan sa protection po ito ng mga IPs kasi kayo na po mismo Mr. President, Madam President and your good sponsor, kayo po mismo nagsabi kanina, alam niyo naman yung IPs madaling ma-influence yan kaya nga po we have this, kaya
PAMBI,
Madam President,
power dyan,
Madam President,
DNR.
Mr.
PAMBI.
Kaya nga po we have this.
But maybe just request, well, of course, Your Honor, the sponsor, can we allow her please to continue? And you will give you all the time to ask a
No,
question.
Madam President,
Yes.
ako munang magsalita kasi I'm explaining Inagaw niya po yung time ko I was the one explaining and my witness is the
We
minority leader.
suspend session for a minute.
I approached the secretary and we got a commitment from the secretary and the department, particularly the head of the PAMBI, which is the RD Nilo. We'll visit the office of Senator Tulfo on Wednesday together with the PAMBI. Bring with you all the documents, RD Nilo. And of course, what's important are the members of the PAMBI para makakausap siya ni Senator Tulfo. That's a commitment that we're giving him. Is that correct, Madam Sponsor and
Yeah.
RD Secretary? They're nodding their head. So, Senator Tulfo, is that
Mr.
all right? Is
President.
that all right?
That is okay with me. I'm going to terminate my interpellation because I received 80 pages of documents coming from the DNR and we will study it. And just like what you said, on Wednesday we'll meet again and see what happens with the people that they're going to bring in as witnesses, resource persons. And let's see kung ano pong mapag-usapan nun at makikita natin. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you
Mr.
also,
President.
Senator.
Mr. President.
Maraming salamat, sir.
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator JV?
just with the same issue, regarding the Upper Marikina River Basin Protected Landscape, I'm I'm a witness because I go training there. And from what I know, it has been upgraded from to a protected landscape, no, from a reservation a few years ago. But now, when we go training there are a lot of guards that do not allow us. A lot of developments happening, and I think we have to look into this, because this might be one of the causes of flooding, because it's the protected landscape that holds water, no, going down Metro Manila in the
So
Sierra Madre Valley.
if you would like, I would ask Regional Director Nilo to also visit you on Wednesday.
Yes,
At your
Mr.
office, to
President.
explain that Marikina protected area landscape.
Upper Marikina,
Upper Marikina.
protected landscape.
Protected area.
Mr. President, we
Yes,
want to
Madam Sponsor.
manifest that the DNR will issue show cause order to those who are
Hindi po, to explain lang muna kay Senator
no,
JV.
but they are willing to issue show cause order for those who are not allowing
Mga structures and stuff.
to why they have structures and establishment in the legislated
Yes,
protected area.
that would be good if you can do that. Let's be proactive. Let us be
Mr. President,
proactive.
the minority leaders.
Yes,
I
minority
I
leaders.
want to join the Senator Ejercito in the meeting with the regional director because ako mismo 7 feet underwater kami sa Fairlane sa Marikina. So
nakatira si minority leaders in Marikina.
I need to know the root causes of the flooding, Mr. President.
Okay.
All right. So, thank you to my dear colleagues. So, Director Nilo, I will see you on Wednesday dito sa Senado. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Sponsor, Majority Leader.
And may I call the attention of Miss Cynthia Coriol that we've been here working at 9 o'clock in the morning, waiting for all departments' budget, the budget of departments to be deliberated upon. We are doing our job, and no one has the right to tell us to stop talking here. It is our duty and our job to perform our work here in the Senate. And you do not have the right to tell us what to do here. Imagine telling the Senate President, we've been here at 1 o'clock waiting for DOTC's budget to be heard. We've been working since last week, deliberating on all the budgets of the departments here. And telling the Deputy Minority Leader to stop asking questions. Kami nga, kahit matagal magtanong si Senator Risa, we never dared to ask her to stop asking questions. Who are you? Who are you to tell us to stop asking questions? Remember, if one of us tells the sponsor to defend the budget of DOT, what will happen to you? You cannot do anything. You cannot do anything here. If I move to defer your budget, or to slash the budget of DOT, because of your actuations and because of your actions towards my colleagues here, what will happen to the budget of DOT? Imagine, even Senator Pia Cayetano, you've been texting her even before. That's what I heard from her regarding EJ Obiena's performance. She's a senator, she's a lawyer, she knows what to do. She's a senior member here in this August chamber. You've been a member of PSC, am I right? So you know how the budget runs here in the Senate, or even in Congress. You know, we spend wee hours of the morning here. Am I correct? And why are you complaining? The secretary is not complaining. She's a neophyte secretary. She never complained. Who are you to complain? The secretary is a good friend of all senators here. She never complained. Kahit siguro alas 3 na ma-hear yung budget ng DOT, hindi magre-reklamo yan. Because she knows what's happening here in Congress, or in the Senate in particular. I think our colleagues, they deserve an apology from you. If the majority leader and Senate President will allow us to suspend the rules and
Yes, actually, just to put it in proper perspective, my dear colleagues, for the information of the departments, we're just doing our constitutional mandate of hearing all the budgets and asking diligently where the funds are being utilized. We have no right to stop any member of the Senate to ask questions, propose amendments, and as Senate President, I will never do that to any of you. So it was very surprising that this person, Ma'am Cynthia, who's a friend of mine, family friends, and if it was just me, I would just let go of it. But when I heard that you were texting other members of the Senate, particularly more insulting messages to Senator Risa Hontiveros to stop asking the budget already of the DNR because, you want to take over, you want the DOT to be next in line. That is not proper. That is inappropriate. And I think the sad part about it is she does not know you from Adam. So it is like a text it's like a angry text message from an anonymous person, which is, again, as I mentioned, inappropriate. And so I would like to ask the majority floor leader and the body to allow, please, before I do the motion, to allow to suspend the rules so that she may address us if she wants to apologize or not, because it is quite insulting to the members of the Senate. And we're not doing this to trample on anyone's rights. It's just that we are all working very hard. And the good gentleman from San Juan is absolutely correct. We've been here in the morning and we've been doing this for the last week. It's our 8th day. Our 6th day of doing this at going home at 2 in the morning. 8th day? It's our 8th day. My apologies. And we've done almost all departments. So my colleagues don't deserve that. My colleagues, never mind me. You can insult me, you can get mad at me. But my colleagues do not deserve that treatment from members of the government who are actually trying to sponsor their budgets. And so before I make a motion,
Before I recognize our Deputy Minority Leader, I did not get any text from this certain head of the agency of PRA, Mr. President. But I just wanted to put on record my utmost disgust, dismay, and disappointment, especially coming from a fellow government official. Mr. President, I take offense. Even though I did not get the text, I take offense being a member of this institution. And I joined the gentleman from San Juan and our Senate President and remind our colleagues, not only in this August chamber, but also every single government official. Mr. President, I haven't seen my kids and my wife for so many days, for more than a week now. Senator Jinggoy's wife is celebrating her birthday today. He couldn't even go home. And then someone from a public official would dare to question our duties and responsibilities, our work here in the Senate. It's unacceptable, Mr. President. So even if the distinguished head of PRA is not willing to answer or apologize, I think we should hear from her, Mr. President. What she wants, what she wanted to happen, how she think this Senate as an institution would be better if we will succumb to whatever she wants, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, with that, I will support any motion to suspend the rules, if there be. But for the meantime, we will yield the floor to our Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Risa Hontiveros.
our Deputy Minority Floor Leader is recognized.
Salamat kaayo, Mr. President. Ug daghang salamat, Mr. President. Maraming salamat kina Senator Jinggoy, Senator Nancy, who took immediate action on this when I brought it to her attention, to Senator Pia, the Majority Leader, all colleagues who came together this midnight to make things right. Sa huli kasi, higit sa lahat tungkol ito sa respeto. Kasi hindi po tayo gumagamit ng sense of entitlement. Ginagawa lang natin at ginagawa namin dito sa Senado ang aming tungkulin, ang aming mandato. I am a member of the minority, a proud member of the minority, and I take offense if our modest Senate President will not, at the Senate President of our institution being texted such messages. Salamat kaayo to Sec Frasco for her apology and the apology as well of another official of the DOT who met us in front near the lounge. I heard the apology of the person concerned, but I think moving forward, words must be followed by action. Pagwasto sa ginawa niya, hindi lang sa ilang individual natin, pero sa buong institusyon natin. So I hope things can be set right in the next days. At hindi lamang sa Senado, pati sa publiko na sumusubaybay sa trabaho namin over the past 2 weeks. They at least, I think, appreciate the seriousness with which we do our work. Ano man ang oras, gaano man kami kapagod o hindi pagod. Dahil sa huli, higit sa lahat tungkol sa respeto at ang respetong binibigay ng mga senador sa aming trabaho. Salamat kaayo, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minority Floor Leader Rizal Hontiveros. So if the body wishes, and I believe the body wishes, we move to, with the permission of the body, we move to suspend the rules and ask her if she has anything else to say to the body.
Davao and no other than our idol, Senator Raffy Tulfo, to deliver his privileged speech.
For distinguished colleague for the great provinces of Isabela and Davao, and our idol Raffy, Senator Raffy Tulfo is recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, kagabi po, ako po ay pumunta sa isang lamay ng isang binata sa Nabotas na bago siya binawian ng buhay, punong-puno po siya ng pangarap para sa kanyang sarili at sa kanyang pamilya. Ito po ay si Gerard Jinggoy Baltasar na pinatay ng mga Navotas PNP dahil sa mistaken identity. Ayan po siya. Kung mananapatin niyo po, I would like to share a short video of my conversation with the mother of Jinggoy. Meron po tayong video.
Na pumunta rin po doon na. Meron po mga SWAT na pumunta rin po doon na nakatutok po doon sa bangka. Ang inaano ko baka SWAT po yung nakapatay sa ko kasi sa ulo po yung tama niya.
Mahinang audio.
Dapat po yung nangyari. Mga alauna po. Posible po hindi nila nakilala yung anak ko. Sana po tinanong nila kung ano yung pangalan ng anak ko. Kasi sasali ko na rin po yung, di ba po patay na yung anak ko, nakalagay po siya sa styrofoam. Nandun po yung mga polis, meron po lalaki bumaba, hinila pa po yung anak ko sa may burak. Tapos po, ang ginawa niya, pinag-isipan niya po yung anak ko. Meron po talaga nakakita na patay na yung anak ko, pinag-isipan niya po, tapos may balak siyang parang babaunan niya pa ng droga yung anak ko. Meron po
Nakakadurog po ng puso at nakakagalit ang sinapit niya sa kamay ng ating mga kapulisan. Mistaken identity. Kumbaga, sa mga pulis, pasensya na. Kala namin ibang tao ka. Hindi po ba dapat lahat tayo tumatayo ngayon para kay Jinggoy na nilapastangan ng ating criminal and justice system? Lumapit po sa aking programa ang lola ni Jinggoy nung nakarang linggo at pinatutukan ko ang kaso niya. Napag-alaman po namin na napakaraming kalokohan at kawalang-hiyaan nangyari dito sa kaso ni Jinggoy. Sa dami ng panukalang batas na pinapasa natin dito, parang pagdating sa field at sa mga operations ng pulis, ito ay binabaliwala. Binibigyan natin sila ng budget na pambili ng mga armas para maprotektahan ang ating mga kababayan. Pero anong nangyari? Ang mga armas na binili ng ating buwis ang mismong kikitil ng buhay natin. Bibigyan natin sila ng otoridad upang panatilihin ang seguridad at kapayapaan. Pero sila mismo ang sanhi ng takot at gulo at paghasik ng lagim. Mr. President, itong nakarang Lunes sa pamumuno ng Chairman ng Committee on Public Order na si Senator Bato de la Rosa ay inimbestigahan ang pagpaslang kay Apari Vice Mayor Romel Alameda at iba pa niyang kasamahan. Marami po tayong natutunan sa hearing na yun at kung anong mga batas ang dapat ipasa. Sa katunayan, umuusad na po ang ating bill na body-worn camera, CCTV sa mga jails at prisons at ang Checkpoint Regulation Act. Pero, nais ko po ulit kumatok sa pinto at sa puso ninyo, lalo na sa Committee on Public Order at kay Senator Bato. Sana po ay maimbestigahan din po natin ang nangyari kay Jinggoy. Ang kaso niya at ang nangyayari sa kanyang pamilya ay siyang nangyayari sa mas nakararami nating mga kababayan. Mr. President and my dear colleagues, our criminal justice system is not the same for the rich, powerful, and influential as to what is being applied to our ordinary citizens, most especially the poor and the powerless. Let me lay down a few of the issues that I hope will be addressed. First, the operations procedure. There is a selective application of the PNP operational procedures. I commend the PNP for having a very extensive and well-written manual. As you can see, in the presentation. Napakaganda po ng mga nakalagay. Napakaganda kung ito ay nasusunod at pinatutupad sa lahat ng sitwasyon at kahit sino pa ang kaharap nila. In the 2021 revised PNP Operational Procedures Manual, they introduced the use of force continuum policy. Here we see the three approaches for the use of force continuum, starting with non-lethal approach, moving to less lethal approach, then going to lethal approach. Makikita po dito na ang kada sitwasyon na kinakaharap ng ating mga kapulisan ay may akmang aksyon na dapat gamitin. Sa kaso po ni Jinggoy, isang 17-year-old na nasa bangka at balak na mangisda, sa kataasan ng araw, walang armas at hindi naman ng laban. Dumiretso agad sa lethal approach ang ating mga pulis. Ang lethal approach po ay ginagamit kung armed at dangerous po ang suspect at kung may unlawful aggression or intention to cause severe injury, serious bodily harm or death to police officers and other people. Kahit balibalik na rin po natin ang kwento ni Jinggoy, paano magiging threat itong bata na ito sa isang grupo ng kapulisan na armado ng mga M16 at 9mm. According to the PNP manual, the use of handguns and rifles are authorized only to prevent or repel the unlawful aggression.
Nandun po yung mga polis. Meron po lalaki bumaba. Inilap po yung anak ko sa may burak. Tapos po, ang ginawa niya, si Pegisipan niya po yung anak ko. Meron po talaga nakakita na. Kasi na yung anak ko, pinag-isipan niya po. Tapos nibalak siya parang pabawalan niya pa ng droga yung anak ko.
Si Jinggoy.
Meron po mga SWAT.
Bakit po ang warning shots?
Punta rin po doon na. Nakatutok po doon sa bangka. Ano ko ba?
Outnumbered.
Nakapasay sa ano ko kasi sa ulo ko yung tama niya. Sa katangaling tapat po yung nangyari. Mga alauna po. Posible po hindi nila nakilala yung ano ko. Sana po tinanong nila kung ano yung pangalan ng anak ko. Kasi sasali ko na rin po yung di ba po patay na yung anak ko. Nakalagay po siya sa styrofoam. Nagkapando po yung mga polis. Meron po lalaki po. Inilap po yung anak ko sa mga burak. Po, ang ginawa niya, pinag-isipan niya po yung anak ko. Meron po talaga nakakita na patay na yung anak ko. Pinag-isipan niya po tapos may bakit siyang parang babaunan niya pa ng droga yung anak ko. Meron po mga SWAT na ano, pumunta rin po doon na nakapunto po doon sa bangka. Ang inaano ko baka spot yung nakapatay sa anak ko kasi sa ulo ko yung sa kamay. Sa katangaling po yung nangyari. Mga una po, hindi po nila nakilala yung anak ko. Sana po tinanong nila kung ano yung pangalan ng anak ko. Sa kasi sasali ko na po yung di po patay na yung anak ko. Nakalagay po siya sa styrofoam. Nandun po yung mga polis. Meron po lalaki pa. Inila pa po yung anak ko sa may burak. Tapos po, ang ginawa niya, pinag-isipan niya po yung anak ko. Meron po talaga nakakita na patay na yung anak ko. Pinag-isipan niya po. Tapos may balak siyang parang babaunan niya pa ng droga yung anak ko.
Ang mga pulis.
Meron po mga SWAT na ano, na pumunta rin po doon na nakatutok po doon sa bangka.
Seriously, Mr. President, the PNP manual
po yung nakapatay sa ano po, kasi sa ulo po yung tama niya.
Why?
Kaling tapat po yung nangyari. Mga anak ko na po, posible po hindi nila nakilala yung ano ko. Sana po tinanong nila kung ano yung pangalan ng anak ko. Kasi sasali ko na rin po yung, di pa po patay na yung anak ko, nakalagay po niya sa styrofoam. Nandun po yung mga polis, meron po lalaki bumaba, hinila pa po yung anak ko sa styrofoam.
Mga PNP officers na
ginawa niya. Pinag-isipan niya po yung anak ko. Meron po talaga nakakita na. Pinag-isipan niya po tapos may balak siyang
training and verbal
yung anak ko.
the joint manipulation.
Meron po mga SWAT na ano, pumunta rin po doon na nakatutok po doon sa bangka. Na ano ko baka po yung nakapatay sa ano. Sa ulo po yung tama niya. Sa tangaling tapat po yung nangyari. Mga alauna po. Posible po hindi nila nakilala yung anak ko. Sana pinanong nila kung ano yung pangalan ng anak ko. Kasi sasali ko na rin po yung ipupatay na yung anak ko.
Expert sa martial arts. And he knows that. We also need to equip them with weapons so they could implement the less lethal approach when needed. These impact weapons include batons, truncheons, tasers, or pepper spray, or even arnis. And of course, proper training so that these equipments could be used in a calibrated way and not to cause serious injury or death. Another flaw in the operations conducted by the PNP is the fact that the body-worn camera of the PNP was unfortunately turned off or intentionally turned off. As mentioned earlier, the body-worn camera bill is already moving. The police officer in charge of the equipment must ensure that it is functioning or an alternative recording device is used at all times, or else he will be held liable criminally. Such act should be considered as tampering of evidence. Kung nakabukas lang po sana ang kamera ng pulis, edi sana mas madaling naisampa ang tamang kaso laban sa mga pumatay kay Jinggoy. At isa pang sabwata na nadiskubi po ay ang pagtanggi ng investigador na iparapintes ang 6 na pulis na involved sa operasyon. Bakit pag ordinaryong tao ang akusado, hayok na hayok sila sa pagdiin ng mga krimen? Minsan, nagpaplanta pa ng ebidensya. Pero dito, ginagawang lahat upang sanggain ang investigasyon dahil kabaro nila ang sangkot. And as if the death of Jinggoy is not enough, the road to justice proves to be difficult yet again for Jinggoy's family. As with most cases, where the victims are poor and powerless. Sa unang pag-imbestiga, ang 6 na pulis na sangkot sa pagkamatay ni Jinggoy ay sasampahan lang ng complaint for reckless imprudence resulting in homicide. Sampal sa pamilya ni Jinggoy ito. Aksidente lang pagkamatay niya? Parang nasagasaan lang sa kalye? Sinong niloloko nyo? Mga lespo. If we permit this kind of reasoning in Jinggoy's case, it will be like a free pass for all abusive police officers to shoot whomever they want and claim mistaken identity. My office is preparing a bill that would ensure strict compliance with the PNP Operations Manual, particularly for law enforcement operations, including the use of force continuum. This bill will hold law enforcers liable for deaths and injuries during law enforcement operations in violation of the PNP procedures. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, we have punished the crime for plunder. Ang plunder po ay pagnanakaw lang talaga, pero binigyan natin ito ng matinding kaparusahan dahil ang nagnakaw ay public official at pera ng bayan ang ninakaw. Sa panukalang batas na ipapasa ko, hindi simpleng reckless imprudence resulting in homicide ang kaparusahan sa mga pulis na pumapatay habang nilalabag ang operations procedure nila. Dapat po sila ay may mas mabigat na kaparusahan. They are paid to protect, yet they are the ones threatening the lives of our citizens. We arm them using tax money, and yet they use it against the people they are sworn to protect. This deserves a grave penalty. We have to enforce our laws on our law enforcers. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, my heart goes to the family of Jinggoy. But you know, it also pains me to castigate our police officers all the time. Kasi po, karamihan naman sa kanila ay nasa ayos ang pagsiservisyo. Nadudungisan lang ng ilan o kulang lang ng suporta mula sa itaas. Let us work together to elevate our law enforcers. They should be respected and not feared. With the help of Senator Bato de la Rosa and everyone here in the Senate, I know maayos din po natin ito. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Maraming salamat, Senator Rafi.
Mr. President, if I may, I know that we are pressed for time, and I just have one question. If my distinguished colleague, Senator Tulfo, would yield to just one question, Mr. President. First of all, Mr. President, let me take this opportunity to extend my sincerest condolences to the family left behind by Jinggoy Baltazar. My thoughts and prayers are with you all. Secondly, Mr. President, I joined the gentleman from Isabela and Davao in strongly condemning the brutal killing of Jinggoy Salazar, a 17-year-old who dreams of becoming a seaman someday, Mr. President. Just have one question, if my distinguished colleague would yield. Just one question with regard to the seemingly, Mr. President, paulit-ulit na nakakasama ng loob, nakakasalukasok ng mga pangyayari na nagagawa. I'm sure hindi ito sinasadya, pero nagagawa, nakocommit pa rin ng kapulisan. If the gentleman would know if in the past 5 years perhaps, police violence na nag-lead sa kamatayan, mistaken identity, may numero ho ba tayo nito para sabihin ito ay talagang parang wala hong nangyayari? Kasi kahit sabihin po na babaguhin na naman natin yung manual, etc. Mr. President, I just would like to put on record, and you, Mr. President, and I are authors of resolution investigating the killing, Mr. President, if you would recall, the 17-year-old Kian Lloyd de los Santos. Mr. President, he was killed in the same day, today, August 16, 2017. Same day, 6 years ago, Mr. President. He was shot 3 times in the head despite begging for his life. Yung 19-year-old po, si Carlo Angelo Arnaiz, who was handcuffed, beaten up before being killed. And Carl's friend and witness to the murder, yung 14-year-old, si Reynaldo de Guzman, whose body was found floating in a creek with 31 stab wounds. All these killings, Mr. President, were committed by the Caloocan City Police. So, Ginoong Pangulo, may distinguished colleague, may data na po ba tayo kaya? Kung ilang beses na po itong nangyayari, baka kung i-impose natin ng death penalty, ito yung unahin natin.
Maraming salamat, Your Honor, Mr. President, for that question. As far as data is concerned, no, we don't have that. And certainly, the policemen or the PNP would not ever give us those numbers. On the other hand, let me tell you, Mr. President, Your Honor, the reason bakit hindi ito mapahinto paulit-ulit na lang, you said, and I agree with you totally, through the years, it happens again and again and again. And the thing here that I saw, the main problem is doon po sa recruitment. Kasi it starts with the recruitment process. Dapat nasasara talaga yung mga hindi karapat-dapat mag-training at yung mga pulis na dapat hindi na maisalang at maging patrolman pa or starts from the bottom, maging kabo. Why? Because marami sa mga kapulisan natin ang may topak. Sorry for the word. May sira sa ulo. Pero nakakalusot dahil malakas nirekomenda ng mga Poncio Pilato. So, nakakalusot sila na dapat doon pa lamang sa screening process, nasara na sila. Meron nga tayong tinatawag na neuropsychiatric exam, pero ito nga po, Mr. President, I remember many years ago, yung isa pong colonel sa Camp Crame, siya po yung nagkakandak ng neuropsychiatric exam sa mga gustong mag-training sa pagka-PNP. Siya mismo ay saksakan ng abusado at inireklamo po sa aking programa. Kung yung mismo nagsasagawa ng neuropsychiatric exam para sa mga gustong mag-training sa pagka-pulis, ang mismo may topak sa ulo, then nakikita niyo na po yung maging problema. At ito pa pong masakit, nung panahon po ni PRD, ni President Rodrigo Duterte, dinoble ang sweldo ng mga pulis natin. So, inakala po natin lahat kapag nadoble na ang kanilang sweldo, gaganda na ang kanilang serbisyo. Pero lalong lumala. Sampo, yung problema rito, again, hindi po nasara yung pagpasok ng mga pulis na kung saan-saan lamang nanggaling at pagdating sa training, sila ay tinulak lamang na maging pulis ng kanilang mga padrino at hanggang sa makapasok sila maging PNP. So it is time na dapat yung mga pulis natin is quality, not quantity. So again, Mr. President, akin pong tututukan ito to make sure itong mga ginagawang pang-abuso nating kapulisan, masisilip ko at maparusahan ang dapat maparusahan.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I certainly agree with the observations made by our distinguished colleague, yung sa recruitment.
Mr. President, okay. May binigay isang staff ko, 6,000 police killings in general.
Wow.
Between 2016 to 2021. Pero this is in general. Hindi dito kasama yung killings dahil sa mistaken identity, killings dahil sa pang-abuso, killings dahil sa salvage. So ito ay general lamang. So yung tinatanong niyo po ata is yung specific to police brutality. Ito po, general to.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as I was saying, Mr. President, I agree with you that we should scrutinize yung mga papasok, and at the same time, yung mga nakapasok na, dapat na-check din. Kasi sabi nga nila, power corrupts, and it corrupts absolutely. When you have that power, at the same time, Mr. President, kung papahawakin natin sila ng baril, hindi ho dapat napapasakamay ng may topak ang baril na binili mismo. Binanggit niyo ho kanina, yun ang napakasakit. Imagine, taxpayer po yung nagbayad nitong mga armas na ito na kumitil sa buhay ng mga kabataan natin na walang kamalay-malay. I am not making a sweeping judgment sa kapulisan natin. Hindi lahat ganun. I don't believe marami sa kanila pang ganun. Ngunit meron talagang bad eggs na kailangang i-address natin itong problemang ito, Ginoong Pangula. And as I promised, I only have one issue. Yun lang po, yung data doon. And again, I would like to remind the body that 6 years ago, August 16, the same day, 2017, pinatay ang 17-year-old na si Kian Lloyd de los Santos. Mr. President, how many more of our youth should suffer as a consequence of our law enforcers' reckless actions? So we are calling our government, our law enforcement, the DILG to look into this, into the procedures and protocols of our law enforcement officers to prevent a similar incident from happening again. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo. Maraming salamat, Senator Tulfo.
May dagdag ko lang, Mr. President, Your Honor. Ang sinasuggest ko rin, on a yearly basis, kailangan sumailalim yung ating mga pulis sa tinatawag na neuropsychiatric exam at random drug test. Kasi nga, ang nangyari ngayon, minsan lang sila neuropsychiatric exam, and then after that, go na sila, libre na sila. Kasi pwedeng pumasa sila nung time ng kanilang recruitment, pero after a year or two, nagbago yung kanilang situation because of anxiety, stress sa trabaho, pagod. So doon na pumasok yung pagkakaroon nilang topak sa ulo. So kapag regular ang kanilang pag-undergo ng neuropsychiatric exam, mahuhuli po yun, masasara sila. So pwede silang muna papahingayin at magamot. Thank you,
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator Escudero, sir.
may I make a brief manifestation so as not to belabor the point given that Senator Villar will be sponsoring. I just want to take advantage of my rare presence in plenary. Mr. President,
Let it be placed on record, Mr. President.
I subscribe completely to the statements and the speech of Senator Tulfo, and I join him in his desire for justice for the victim and in calling out not only the policemen involved but the entire Philippine National Police. What struck me, Mr. President, was the statement made by the good gentleman with respect to magkabaro kasi at pinoprotektahan nila ang mga sarili nila. Mr. President, more than the neuro, I think the leadership of the PNP, the DILG, and even the DOJ should set the tone insofar as making these police officers accountable, if only to make them as examples, that the basic rules on engagement as it applies to civilians also applies to members of the Philippine National Police. They can only shoot and fire upon and even kill someone in self-defense only. Hindi porkit kriminal, nagnakaw, may pinatay, may ginahasa, nakita mo naglalakad palayo, kahit gaano kalala yung krimen niyang ginawa, pwede mo nang barilin at patayin kung wala namang panganib sa buhay mo mismo nung tinatangka mong hulihin o habulin siya. Sa kasong ito, kung hindi ako nagkakamali, Ginoong Pangulo, nasa laot yung binaril nila. Wala namang hawak na armas. Malayo sa kanila. At ni walang panganib sa buhay nila. Makatakas na kung makakatakas, pero hindi sila pinapayagan ng batas na putukan, lalo na barilin at patayin. The rules of engagement are quite clear, And I do not understand why Philippine National Police members, whatever rank, whenever they entered, whether they passed the neuro or not, cannot understand that and put that in their thick heads. They should try to arrest, but if he escapes and runs, hindi niya pwedeng putukan kahit sa paa para madapa at mahuli niya, because still, there was no threat to his life that he needed to defend himself. The reason, Mr. President, why we gave our law enforcement personnel guns was not to shoot anyone who they think is guilty of a crime. Only a judge can decide that. The purpose and reason why they have guns is to protect themselves and to protect the civilian population from violent criminals. It is not a license to shoot anyone that they think is either guilty, even if he is actually guilty of having committed a crime. During the budget deliberations, I will join the distinguished gentleman in asking accountability from the PNP, not only the PNP, also the DLG, also the DOJ, especially insofar as the kind and nature of the offense or crime they will be filing against these police officers. It cannot be merely abandonment of a victim, for sure, Mr. President, Your Honor. It cannot be merely violation of PNP standard operating procedures and protocols. This is either homicide or murder, and nothing prevents the prosecutor evaluating this case in preliminary investigation from filing a case for murder, because it can always be lowered to homicide. But filing a case for homicide can never be elevated to murder. Filing a case, Mr. President, for a similar act of abandoning a victim cannot be elevated to murder anymore. A safer recourse on the part of the DOJ would be to file the higher offense, because anyway, the policeman can be convicted of a lower offense should the evidence point to the lower offense. I submit, Mr. President, and I thank the gentleman for the time he allocated to me.
Thank you for your manifestation, Your Honor, Mr. President. Thank you.
Senator Risa Hontiveros is also
Yes, Mr. President.
raising her hands.
Salamat kayo, Mr. President. Bilang pagsuporta po sa privilege speech ng good gentleman mula sa Isabela, maikling imamanifest ko lang po unang-una na tulad nila, nakikiramay ako sa pamilya ni Jinggoy Baltazar. And Mr. President, I welcome the decision of the PNP IAS to file administrative charges against and relieve the Navotas police chief who covered up the involvement of police officers in the killing of Jinggoy Baltazar. However, while this is a first step towards accountability, relief from position is not justice. It is appalling that at least 11 police officers committed an overkill shooting of one 17-year-old boy. Standard procedure po ba para sa police officers na mag-shoot on site at hindi tangkaing i-aresto yung tao? Kita naman po natin sa use of force continuum ang sagot. Therefore, I urge the Ombudsman and the Department of Justice to further investigate the Navotas police chief and police officers for obstruction of justice. After it was discovered, they had altered the report on Jinggoy's death to remove the names of the 11 officers. Oras ng sampahan ng kasong kriminal ang mga pulis na inaabuso ang kapangyarihan nila para maiwasan ang saklaw ng batas. Like the minority leader, I will file a resolution to urge a Senate investigation on this issue. Also in the spirit of the privileged speech of the good gentleman from Isabela, para maisiwalat na ang mga cover-up operations na tila binabastos ang integridad ng PNP at lalo na ng taong bayan. Finally, beyond this specific case, Mr. President, the Senate should consider investigating if similar tactics have been used in other police operations. In addition to the Supreme Court's rules requiring police body cams, We will also explore the possibility of legislation which will penalize police officers who fail to turn on their body cams during operations, perhaps as a companion measure to the bill of the good gentleman from Isabela. Today, on the death anniversary of Kian de los Santos, we are reminded of the urgent action we need to take for the many young lives we've lost to trigger happy and cruel cops. Muli po, Mr. President, pakikiramay sa pamilya ni Jinggoy Baltasar. Oh, and lastly, Mr. President, the 6,000 killings cited by the good gentleman from Isabela are the killings acknowledged by the Philippine National Police in the course of the bloody war on drugs. Salamat po. Salamat kayo, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, my distinguished colleague. And we'd like to also congratulate Senator Raffy Tulfo for taking this up on the floor today and in the consciousness of each and every senator. Pinapanood ko nga yung news gabi-gabi at yan pong laman ng news. Naawa po ako nung unang nakita ko po yung kanyang nanay na umiiyak via Zoom nung nandun pa siya sa Middle East. Napakasakit para sa mga OFWs natin na malaman na ganun lamang ang pagka-disgrasya na kanilang mga anak dito sa ating bansa. And in other countries that would have courted condemnation, in other countries like in France, when a teenager was killed by the police, they had 2 weeks of rioting. Talaga nagkagulo-gulo dun because he was a immigrant boy na binaril ng police na nagkagulo-gulo. In the United States, they launched the Black Lives Matter movement. There was a lot of movements in the United States dahil sa pag-aabuso ng mga pulis. Kaya tama lang po ito na dapat talaga magkaroon po tayo ng review ng kanilang manuals, training manuals. I am fully supportive of our armed services. I'm a very strong supporter of rule of law. But that is the whole point, rule of law. There are laws and procedures to be followed. So the law enforcers should also follow the rules of the law. Hindi po, they cannot take the law into their own hands. Kaya tignan natin, meron na po tayong dashcam, meron po tayong pending dashcam bill. Taasan natin yung parusa pag nakasirado po ang yung mga dashcams na ibibigay natin sa police. Sa ibang bansa, tanggal ka agad yun. Pag in-off nila yung dashcam po nila, tanggal automatic yan sa serbisyo sa Estados Unidos. May mga states na ganun. So we can do many things to correct this. Pero nakikiramay po kami sa pamilya ni Jinggoy and sana po wala na po mangyayaring ganito sa ating mga kababayan. I hope in the near future. So we thank you for your vigilance on this and taking this up in the plenary today.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, the minority leader is also seeking the floor. I move that he be recognized, Senator Coco Pimentel.
Our distinguished minority floor leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, congratulations sa ating kasama rito, ang ating idol, dahil sa na-take up natin itong topic na ito. Although, nag-file na po ako ng resolution to
Yes, I saw it. We read it today.
this killing. Tayo po yung nakikiramay nga sa pamilya ni Jinggoy Baltasar. Pero itong usapan na kailangan ayusin, i-review, i-update ang police manual of procedures, naririnig ko na po ito sa panahon pa ng tatay ko na ito topic na po and nabisita nga actually yung police manual of operations, pero iba kasi yung reality versus or theory versus practice, Mr. President. So even if may manual sila, dapat siguro daan-daanan nila at siguro doon maintindihan po nila anong not only the letter of what is there but the spirit, bakit nandun yung rules na yon. So siguro pag hearing po ng aking resolution together with the privilege speech, i-telegraph na natin yung iti-take up natin sa kapulisan itong pagpatay kay insidente na napatay si Jinggoy Baltasar, the police manual of operations, pati Mr. President, pati yung mga iba para pakita natin sa kanila we're aware of the although kay Jinggoy yung resolution, pati iba nalala ko yata, yung mga napatay just because nag-violate sa sa checkpoint. Ilan yan? Kahit meron nung quarantine period, merong yata nag-violate din ng parang ng line na lumampas sa line. Patay din. Ako, naalala ko pa nga itong sa Parañaque. Diba? Mag-ama. Pinaulan na ng bala kasi yung sasakyan, yun yung sasakyan ng suspect. Same model. Same model yan.
Mistaken identity.
I mean, paulit-ulit eh. Ano pa ba isa? Sa may Quezon City ba yun? Ganun din. Sasakyan dahil sa ang pag-describe, ito yung sasakyan. Lahat ba ng sasakyan na ganun? Papaulanan na nila ng bala. Ang namatay yata dun sa Quezon City is rinarush sa hospital eh. So, lahat po na ito, balikan po natin para makita natin na all lives are important. These incidents will never be forgotten. And there is a time for, there's a time for reckoning eh.
Yeah.
Darating ang panahon na kailangan pong harapin yung consequences ng mga nangyari. So, thank you, Senator Tulfo, for bringing this up.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Timing po yung speech niyo, Senator Raffy Tulfo, dahil nag-file nga po ng resolution si Senator Coco Pimentel. We just referred it to the Committee on Public Order and Security together with the Committee on Justice. So, dagdag ko lang po, Senator, our Minority Floor Leader, yung mga ginagawa po nilang mga raid, yung ginagawa po nila mga action, pag tinignan niyo po sila, naka-civilian po sila, wala po tayong nakikitang pulis na signage, wala yung tsapa. Pero mo nakakatakot yun. This could be considered an armed group. How would you know if pulis yung kausap mo o hindi? Diba? Nakakatakot talaga. Kaya kailangan na talagang magkaroon ng standard operating procedures and they must follow it to the letter. Another information to the body, we're also going to tackle the panay lobby dito ng police hierarchy. Yung PNP modernization bill. So, pwede natin isingit din dyan. Yung mga panukala, mga plano po natin para mapatibay po ang pagrespeto ng batas. Lalo na sa pagdating sa police operations.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. If I may add, I do agree with Senator Chis Escudero said a while ago, every time an incident like this happens, dapat we should also always call the attention of the DILG and the PNP, the Chief of Police, the Chief PNP, dahil sila naman po ang gumagawa ng mga policy at procedures. So, dapat pag may nangyaring naulit tong ganitong insidente, pati sila meron pananagutan, pati sila dapat magpaliwanag sa atin. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Tao, sir, ginagawa lang. Ito, sir, you may or may not answer. Pero I know you, sir, to always have no filter and be honest eh. Lagi kang honest, sir. Sa tingin niyo, sir, ginagawa lang to ng ibang tao. Hindi na ho tayo, hindi ko alam kung sino ho, sir. Pero ito ang sabi-sabi. Ginagawa lamang daw ito para daw ho sa eleksyon. Para magpapogi.
Sistema yan. Dapat natin paniwalaan din ng mga opinion na yan. Kasi madalas ganyan. Yun naman.
You think there's some truth?
Siyempre naman.
Okay.
Na 2025.
Correct, nandyan
Pero
na
ang kailangan natin mangyari dito, kaya anuman ang kanilang intensyon, kailangan itong pumasa.
Pero tanong ko, sir.
Kailangan itong pumasa. Ano man ang intensyon?
Ano, sir? Kung yun man ang intensyon nila at ito ang resulta na mapapaganda ang buhay ng mga mamamayan natin,
Bakit
bahala kayo magpapogi.
Oo.
Itong sa 100 peso minimum wage hike, paano naman ho yung mga employers?
ayokong sapawan yung author nito kasi si Jinggoy tsaka si Senate President.
Hindi, kahit short lang, sir.
So, ito, short lang. Oo. Hindi naman ang Senado po, hindi po ito gagawa ng isang bagay na walang study. Ito lang po yung sinisigurado ko sa inyo. Opo. Pag humakbang po ang Senado, maniwala po kayo sa akin, nandiyan ang pinakamagagaling na tao. Nakita nyo naman yan.
Correct, sir.
Hindi po ito magiging threat sa mga negosyo, lalo sa maliliit kasi merong ano yan meron silang nilagay na mga kung ilan lang yung empleyado na dapat may mga ganun
Yes, sir.
Sobra din naman yung binigay nung panahon ni Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte, binigyan ng mga ano yan yung mga negosyante na yan, yung mga korporasyon na yan, binigyan sila ng magandang
Insentibo.
deal, insentibo sa tax. So mga nakatipid na yan.
Yes.
hindi na pandemic, nagtatrabaho na yung mga tao. So kumita ka na ng extra ngayon.
Okay.
Batuhan mo naman yung, ito salitang ano na lang ito.
Atin lang,
Salitang
sir.
atin na
Yes,
lang.
yes,
Batuhan mo naman yung mga empleyado mo, pambihira
Sir,
naman.
tanong ko,
Oo, di ba?
paano yung mga senador na mga malalaking employer? Malalaking employer, sir. It's reality, sir. Na meron ho tayong mga kasama sa Senado na big employers. Ano naman, sir, yung pakiramdam nila? I'm not asking, sir, yung kung ano sa tingin ni, kung ano yung sabi nila. Pero sa opinion ho ninyo, during plenary sessions, during hearings, during discussions, lumalaban ba sila, sir, dyan?
Hindi. Ito, witness ko to. Nakita ko talaga. Saksi ako. Kilala naman natin kung sino ang mga bilyonaryo at milyonaryo, sino naman natin ang mga nasa Senado. Wala naman pumalag dyan. Nung nilabas yung 100 peso, ano na yan,
Wage hike.
lahat yan, mabilis na mabilis yan. Ito ang pinakamabilis sa lahat na pumasa ng third reading. Bukod sa, hindi, yung maharli ka, ano nga, medyo tumagal-tagal pa yun eh. Pero itong bilis.
Okay.
Ano to? Naniniwala naman ako.
Na-deserve.
Ang liit nga nun. Sa totoo lang, ako sa aking mga workers, nasa 1,000 a day na ako.
Okay. Sir,
Ang dapat nga, ang bayad nga sa worker ngayon, nakita ko nga, nung nagpaano ako ng data, nakalagay ito, 1,120. Uy, kulang pa pala ako. yun yung para mabuhay ng maganda.
Okay.
Ang isang pamilya, kailangan sumasahod siya ng 1,120.
amendment or revision of the revised penal code, yes or no?
Marami na tayong kailangan amendment.
So yes,
Kasi wala na tayo sa panahon.
i-overhaul, amendment, i-revise natin, sir? Kasi
Hindi,
we have to
hindi,
keep up
hindi.
with the times.
Oo, pero ano lang,
Amendments.
amendment lang.
Sorry.
Hindi niya kailangan i-revise.
Divorce law, sir.
Oo, dapat. Kailangan na. Proteksyon ng babae yan.
Tutulong kayo doon sa principal author na si Miss
Meron
Senator
ako mismong
Rita?
bill.
Okay.
Divorce bill.
Okay. Third, sir, tutulong ho ba kayo na maiayos ho itong charter change for next year? Masasama po ba kayo sa movement ng ating administrasyon na maisulong ang charter change?
Opo. Opo.
No reservations, Sen?
Economy and political.
Okay. Kasama yung economy and
Hindi lang siya
political.
pwede sa isang resolusyon. Kasi bawal yun. Sa isang resolusyon, dapat isa lang. Kayo nagturo niyan. Hindi
Yes, sir.
pwedeng dalawa-dalawa.
Correct. Doon sa 100 peso, after, sir, ma-approve yan, either ma-approve man yan, sir, ng both houses. Susulong na naman ho ba kayo ng isa pa pong hike?
Oo. Hindi ako pwedeng, ako ay hinalal para sa kapakanan ng lahat ng Pilipino.
Yes.
At 80% ng lahat ng Pilipino, kulang na ang kanilang sinesweldo.
Okay.
Siguro naman, maiintindihan tayo ng 20%.
Yes.
Oo.
Okay. Sir, doon sa aid bill, gagawa ho ba tayo ng more na... Kasi in aid of legislation yan, sir, eh. And as a senator, that is your right, that is your power to exercise. So in aid of legislation, sir, 3 batas na gusto ho ninyo na nasa pipeline ninyo ngayon. Ano ho ang bills?
Na gusto kong pumasa?
Correct.
Medical cannabis, divorce, saka itong charter.
Ano ho ang gusto niyo sabihin sa 27 million at sa 100... I-overall na ho natin. Hindi naman ho kung sino lang bumoto sa inyo dahil you serve the 110 million
Opo.
Filipinos.
Mga mahal kong kababayan, marami na pong ipinupukol sa atin. Pati po pag-ahit ng bigote, ginawang issue. Yung akin pong asawa, ginawan din ng issue tungkol sa kanyang pagbabitamina. Pati po yung issue na ayaw ko mag-Ingles na napunta pa sa I move. Ang dami pong ibinintang sa atin pero wala po isa dyan tungkol sa pagnanakaw. Hindi po tayo kailanman na pinagbintangan sa usapin na yan. Ako po ay walang absent sa Senado. Ang akin pong ginagawa ay extra. Marami po akong ginagawang extra. Wala na sa trabaho ko. Pero yung aking mga staff, nagre-reklamo na, hindi na namin trabaho to, pero ba't namin ginagawa? Dahil public servant po ako, binoto nyo ako bilang pagsilbihan ngayon. Kaya kung ano man po yung mga issue na pinupukul sa akin, wag po kayo sanang maapektuhan. Dahil lahat po yan, intriga lang. Showbiz. Hindi ko po maintindihan, hindi sila makawala sa gandang lalaki ko. Yun lang lagi ang issue patungkol doon. Kaya sana, wag po kayong maapektuhan. Pagdating po sa politika, alam ko naman po na ako po'y nagtatrabaho at hindi po nasasayang ang inyong boto at ang pondong binibigay niyo po sa akin bilang senador. Wala po akong tinatago dyan, pinamimigay ko po yan. Opo, kahit sarili kong pera, pinamimigay ko po yan. Kaya patawarin niyo po kami kung meron kaming mga maliliit na pagkukulang pero na pinalalaki ng iba. Tandaan niyo po, ako po ay boses ninyo sa Senado, action, hindi drama.
Kung hindi ho ako naniniwala, hindi ko ho kayo kakausapin ng ganito para marinig ho ng 110 million nating Filipinos na dapat ho tayo maniwala hindi lamang ho sa trabaho ni Senator Robin, pero pati ho sa kanyang puso, the working senator. This is
Mr. Majority Floor Leader,
Mr. President.
better that we allow the head of the
That's
agency.
what I'm going to move, Mr. President, to move that we suspend the rules of the Senate to allow the head of the agency to take the floor, Mr. President. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection to the motion. Motion is approved. So the rules are suspended to allow the secretary to sit down and on behalf of your agency, maybe explain.
Good morning, Mr. Senate President,
Good morning,
and
ma'am.
to the members of the Senate. First of all, allow me to express my gratitude for your service to our country and to make things quite clear that the Department of Tourism fully respects the constitutionally mandated duty of the Senate to deliberate upon the budget of all agencies, including the DOT. We respect your mandate, we respect your discretion, and we fully appreciate your exercise of your duty even now to the wee hours of the morning. That being said, I share in your shock and dismay at the highly inappropriate, unacceptable, and out-of-line actions of the head of the Philippine Retirement Authority, the recently appointed GM Cynthia Carreon, who, at the beginning of this day, also actually approached me and demanded that we be placed first as far as the schedule of the deliberations of the budget, to which I immediately replied to her to say that we cannot do that because the Senate is an independent body and we must fully respect their schedule, their discretion, their time. We wait like everybody else because that is, we are in their house. Notwithstanding that, imagine my shock and complete and utter disappointment when I learned that she, in defiance of what I had been very clear to her about, proceeded to send these inappropriate text messages. Upon my learning of these actions, as brought to my attention by Senator Nancy Binay, to whom I am very grateful for letting me know, I demanded that she issue an immediate and personal apology to all of the senators, including the good Senate President, for having acted at the height of impropriety, and also to make very clear that she acted on her own and without the imprimatur of the Department of Tourism or any other attached agency or official of the DOT. That being said, Mr. Senate President, she earlier apologized personally to the senators. Nevertheless, as a tacit manifestation of our commitment to set things right, I have already ordered my Chief of Staff to immediately conduct an investigation into her actuations and subsequent findings of the same to mete out the appropriate penalty that is appropriate to the impropriety of her actions. To close, since I am the head of the Department of Tourism, of which the PRA is an attached agency, I would just like to emphasize our due respect to the Senate and to your exercise of your duty. We yield to your discretion, and we thank you for your patience. Daghang salamat.
Thank you very much, dear Secretary. And I accept the apology that she gave earlier. We just wanted to put it on record so that the other agencies would know, and all the other members of this government would know that we are doing this not to spite any government agency, but this is, again, as you mentioned, a constitutionally mandated duty for us to see each and every budget of each and every agency to make sure that the funds are spent effectively and efficiently for the people. And so we thank the good secretary. She went to see us earlier inside the lounge and she apologized on behalf of the agency. And it is in no way, Secretary, a reflection of your job. You're doing a great job as Secretary of the Department of Tourism. As I said, almost everybody here, or not everybody, loves you and supports you and the department and the great men and women of the Department of Tourism. You're doing a great job for the country. Keep up the good work. So let not this incident tonight frustrate you, and just keep soldiering on. But once again, thank you for that statement, Madam Secretary, and I believe we can already withdraw the the suspension of rules.
Mr. President, before I make that motion, Mr. President, and we would like to spread into the records how we continue to respect the Secretary of the Department of Tourism. We still believe in her. We trust her judgment and competencies. May I just put into the records, Mr. President, what RA 6713, Section 4, Letter B, or the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees calls on all public servants to be professional. And let me put on record, Mr. President, it provides, and I quote, professionalism. Public officials and employees shall perform and discharge their duties with the highest degree of excellence, professionalism, intelligence, and skill. They shall enter public service with utmost devotion and dedication to duty. They shall endeavor to discharge wrong perceptions of their roles as dispensers or peddlers of undue patronage. Just wanted to put that on record, Mr. President, as a member of this august chamber, as a fellow public servant, Mr. President. That is the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials, RA 6713. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we withdraw the suspension of our Senate rules and allow again the sponsor of the measure, Senator Nancy Binay, to defend the measure.
There being
So
no
moved, Mr.
objection to the
President.
motion, motion's approved. We now recognize once again Senator Nancy Bin.
Mr. President, the gentleman from Valenzuela is also seeking the floor. May I move that he be recognized, Mr. President?
My distinguished
For
colleague,
his short
Senator
manifestation, Mr. President.
Sherwin Gatchalian is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I was going to ask a question regarding an article that I saw on the news, and this is regarding the NGCP project that was delayed due to a TRO that was issued or filed by TIEZA. This is in relation to the Cebu-Magdugo 230 kV line that was supposed to be built, and this is a critical piece of infrastructure that will complete the Cebu-Negros Panay interconnection and expansion, as well as the Visayas-Mindanao interconnection facility. And I read in the news that because of a dispute and a TRO that was issued by the courts, the project, well, the project's already delayed, but the project will be more so delayed. But after having a good conversation with the proactive president and head of the TIEZA, I was enlightened and given some facts that a amicable settlement is in the works. And in fact, this settlement has already been approved in concept. The documentation will follow suit, and this documentation will enable NGCP to fast-track the construction at the least cost that will be or the least damage and the least cost for this project. And I was also made to understand by the proactive president, President Mark Lapid, that the next steps will be a formal agreement, and this formal agreement will be used to completely extinguish the cases that were filed and TRO that was issued. So this is a piece of good news. As we all know that the Senate has been very aggressive through the Committee on Energy to pursue transmission expansion projects of the country. Almost 30 plus transmission projects are already delayed, and we cannot afford to delay any more of these transmission projects. As we all know, we always experience yellow and red alerts, and transmission is one of the major causes of this delay. So I thank the head of TIEZA, President Mark Lapid, for his briefing earlier, and I thank him for his being proactiveness and aggressiveness in looking for an amicable solution. I really believe that the court method or the judicial method will take time, and the expansion of our transmission projects the expansion of our transmission projects don't have that luxury of time. So again, thank you very much to the good sponsor. Thank you very much to the head of TIEZA, Mr. President Mark Lapid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hopefully, by next week, they'll already do the signing. And I think the target date for the completion of the project is next December. This December.
Thank you very much, Senator Gatchalian. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, I will no longer ask any questions, but may I ask the distinguished sponsor to give us a brief update on the passage of Trabaho para sa Bayan Law and the DOT's efforts in ensuring that they will continue to help out in employment generation of the industry, Mr. President. And the sponsor already
Actually,
gave her
Mr.
commitment, Mr. President.
I can already state some figures on the employment share.
Please proceed, your sponsor.
Okay. The tourism sector was able to employ around 5.35 million Filipinos in 2022, representing 11.4% of the country's total employment. This is higher by 8.16% than the 4.9 million employed individuals in the previous year. The 2022 figure on employment shows a 93% recovery rate from 2019. Mr. President.
Thank you. And may I just ask just one quick question? And we just want to ask how many, for the secretary or whoever would like to answer and share to the sponsor, how many tourists that we've had so far to date since January of 2023?
Mr. President, as of today, it's 4 point, syempre, hindi ko mabasa, 4 point,
This is the latest.
4.16, yeah, 4.716, and Mr. President, the target is 4.8 million by year end. So
4.7.
yeah, so I think by end of December, we'll probably hit a higher target.
Hopefully we reach 5 million by December. That's good news. And hopefully we can double. We can double it. Let's work hard. Yeah, more ads, guys. Put it in the, I see ads in CNN and BBC. Wala tayong ads dun. Baka dagdagan natin budget nila para magka-ads tayo dun.
I think, Mr. President, with our upcoming event, the APPF, the Senate would also be contributing to the tourist arrivals.
Absolutely. I know several hundreds are coming. Members of parliaments of 20 countries are coming next week. This week, what am I saying? This Thursday. So, thank you.
Especially, Mr. President, if your airport in Bukidnon will be finished by next year.
Malapit na.
A lot of tourists.
DOTR yun. Hindi kasalanan ni Secretary Pastor yan. DOTR yan.
I'm just stating facts for the record,
Yes,
Mr. President.
yes, absolutely.
Mr. President, Senator Pia Cayetano is seeking the floor.
Senator Cayetano is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not a question, just a statement, and then we can just work with the department to further this passion of not just this representation, the Senate President and many members of the Senate, sports tourism. We recently hosted, ang dami ng tumango, nagising lahat ng mga kasama ko pag sinabing sports. We recently hosted the FIBA World Cup, the basketball championship that only happens every 4 years. And I know that there are many other international competitions that we are hosting. There's an international beach volleyball happening at the end of the month. There was a huge international volleyball competition, I think 3 months ago. Sunny, was that when we went? 3 months ago. And we didn't even have a Philippine team, but we filled the stadium. So the Volleyball Federation was extremely impressed that we didn't even have our own team, and yet the Filipinos were all there supporting. Can you imagine how much tourism we could bring? Because when I was talking to the wives of the athletes, the foreign athletes, of course the wives are very excited to go around the country while their husbands were, this happened to be the men's team, while their husbands were performing. So we can do we can improve this if we have more cooperation between the sports association and tourism. And I know it's already there, but we can even enhance it further. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I'd like to share that we're doing that now with Arnis. I see Undersecretary Shalimar Hofer there, and we're doing that in Cebu, where Russians and Europeans are coming over to learn Arnis. And we have Arnis camps for Filipino stick fighting. So that's a good potential also for tourism. So yes, we'll definitely, that is a great way of promoting the Philippines to sports.
Thank you.
Yes, and siguro, just to add, Mr. President, by next week, they'll be having a golf summit. And then on November 25 to December 17, e-gaming World Championship.
And before I forget, by the way, we had dinner with the Thai ambassador, and he was very excited to promote both Thailand and Philippines together. It's like two countries, one destination. So you can fly to Phuket and then fly direct from Phuket to Boracay. I think we need those flights, Secretary, para we can promote both our countries since it's very popular. Imagine that Thailand has about 25 million tourists a year. If we just get maybe half of that from Thailand to fly to the Philippines. Even my friends who want to come to the Philippines say, if we want to go to Thailand, I say, you pass by Philippines, then you go to Thailand or vice versa. When you go to Thailand, fly to the Philippines and then go home to the US. So that way, they also pass to the Philippines.
Yes, and Mr. President, they already opened the Bangkok-Cebu flight.
Fantastic.
Philippine
There you go. Wonderful. So, majority...
Distinguished sponsor, the director for Filmic, Director Junicio Alvindia, to directly answer questions from the members of the Senate. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there an objection to the motion of the majority leader? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I will be the first one to ask question. May I be recognized, Mr. President?
The majority leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Director Alvindia. You're the head of Filmec, sir.
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, Mr. President, let me state for the record that in the budget deliberation of your mother department, Department of Agriculture, sir, you were not around. May we know the reason why you were absent during that budget deliberation, sir?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was not around during the budget deliberation because I was part of the DA delegation to attend the Agritechnica in Germany. The purpose of which is to have to seek talking points for the purpose of the visit of the president by next year. And one of the reason of doing that is I enticed the European machine manufacturers to manufacture their machine in the country so that we will have a sustainable sources of machine, because I firmly believe that the machine should be manufactured in the country, not only rely on importation, Your Honor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. But were you aware that at this time of the year, nagaganap ang ating budget deliberation?
I'm aware, Mr. President.
So you think it's more important or equally important? But you managed to go abroad, to go to Germany instead of attending our budget deliberation. So you feel that it's more important. Am I correct?
I believe it was an equally important opportunity for Filmec and for the Republic of the Philippines.
I will no longer belabor the issue. Mr. President, doon po sa ipinasa nating batas noong 2018, RA 11203, or an act liberalizing the importation, exportation, and trading of rice, lifting for the purpose the quantitative import restriction on rice. 5 billion po, or 50% ng Rice Competitive Enhancement Fund ay nakalaan po para sa rice farm machineries and equipment. Ang mekanisasyon po ang inaasahan ng ating maliliit na magsasaka upang gumanda po yung ani nila at tumaas yung kanilang kita. Dagdag pa po sa 5 billion, Mr. President, meron pang additional 100 million para sa extension services na mapupunta rin sa Filmec. Bukod pa po ito sa taunang budget ng ahensya. Is that a correct statement, Your Honor?
Yes, correct, Mr.
Thank
President.
you. Hindi po nagkulang ang Senado sa pangunguna ng ating chairperson, Senator Cynthia Villar, sa pagbibigay ng pondo at suporta upang maging competitive ang ating pong domestic rice production. For this reason, we have been demanding that the implementing agencies, especially Filmec, to step up its implementation of the law. Now, my first question, Mr. President, is can the distinguished Director Alvindia, give this institution an overview of the Filmec's accomplishment this year compared to last year, Your Honor? Ilan pong porsyento yung na-disburse na ng Filmec sa ngayong taon po?
Ngayong taon po, Mr. President, we obligated 5.8 billion, equivalent to 73.85%.
That's obligated, sir. Ang tinatanong ko po, yung disbursement for 2023.
Yes, Mr. President, our disbursement is quite low, only 3.11%.
Ano po?
3.11% po.
3.11% ngayong taon ang disbursement po ninyo?
Opo.
So, busy-busy nga kayo. Maganda ho yung ginagawa ninyo. 3.11%. So, ano ang dahilan? Bakit 3.11% ang inyong performance? Noong isang taon po?
Ang disbursement nung isang taon, Mr. President, was 42.93%.
42 point,
Sorry, 45.16%.
45.16% ang disbursement nyo po last year.
Opo.
So from 45.16%, ngayon 3.11% po. Katanggap-tanggap po ba yung 3.11%, Your Honor?
Mr. President, we're still working on the payment of...
Tanggap-tanggap po yun, sir. Kung kayo yung nasa posisyon ho namin na laging tinutuligsa, laging pinagrereklamuhan, kami po sa Bulacan, marami ho kaming farmers doon, laging lumalapit sa opisina, nagtatanong, nasaan yung pondo, bakit di magamit yung pondo, akala ko ba tama yung ginagawa nyo, eh dyan sa Senado, nagpasa kayo ng batas, etc. Tapos bibigyan nyo po kami 3.11% performance. So tanggap-tanggap po kaya yon?
Mr. President, this is... the record is as of November 15, 2020.
So hindi ko katanggap-tanggap. Salamat po sa inyong sagot. Tapos na ho yung taon sir. Hindi ko alam kung may natutuwang senador na nakikinig sa atin ngayon, pero yung this year po, ano po yung available appropriation nyo? Kasi kanina binanggit ko, Mr. President, distinguished minority leader, out of the 5 billion, yung 50% Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund na nakalaan para dun sa machineries and equipment, out of that, may dagdag pa na 100 milyon para sa extension services na mapupunta rin sa PhilMec. So ano yung total ng budget ninyo na meron pong 3.11% disbursement rate at this time na matatapos na ho ang taon?
7.9 billion, Mr. President.
7.9 billion. So yun po yung totality, no? Tapos 3.11%.
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mga kapwa ko senador, nakakatuwa po ito. Lalo na pag ganitong oras nagtatrabaho pa po tayo. Sir, anong level na po ba yung mechanization sa bansa?
Ang level po ng mechanization natin ay 2.67% or nearly 2.7 horsepower per hectare po.
Pagkatapos po ng 6th year of implementation ng batas as indicated of the law, 2.67%.
The level was as of last year.
As of last year. So currently, nasa na po tayo?
We are
Ano yung target level na mechanization level ng bansa sa pagdating po sa rice?
Mr. President, if I may say that the 30 billion, because we have 5 billion a year times 6 years, we have 30 billion. And for the 2.7 million hectares of our rice, we are only calculating to mechanize 14% of the 2.7 million hectares.
Mr. President, noong pong 2020, ang saad po ng Department of Agriculture, kailangan natin ng mechanization level na 4 horsepower per hectare para makapagsabayan po tayo sa mga bansa sa Asia. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Sponsor. 2020 target pa po ito. Shouldn't we be settling higher goals by now, Your Honor?
Yes, Mr. President.
So bakit hindi tayo makapag-set ng higher goals?
Because the level of mechanization depends on the number of the machineries we are
And the performance of the agency, which is 3.11% at this time. Am I correct or am I right?
As of November 15th, 3.11%, Mr. President.
So it's the performance of PhilMec. How does PhilMec prioritize its mechanization program for each region?
We have criteria to reckon with, Mr.
For
President.
example, Region 3 of Senator Angara in this representation. Sa Region 3, which is the largest production of palay in the country, has a mechanization level of 2.62 horsepower per hectare, which is below the national average. Kasi ang national average is 2.67 horsepower per hectare. Is that correct? Now, in contrast, you look at Region 2 of Senator Nancy Binay, the second largest palay producer has a mechanization level of 3.51. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. President.
Ganon. Anong nangyayari po? Ano bang criteria nyo po and strategy for each region? Na mababa na nga po yung target, hindi pa rin ma-reach.
Universal naman po, Mr. President, yung ating criteria. The farmer cooperative should have at least 50 hectares.
Yung for all crops, mechanization level is 1.23. Bakit po ganon? Because these figures indicate that primary production is still greatly dependent on manual labor. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. Well, Mr. President, may I also just put on record, Mr. President, that a lot of our kababayans in Bulacan are having second thoughts of the law that we passed here in this Congress because the implementors are actually not doing their job. Let me just put that on record, Mr. President. I will end my interpellation to the Director of PhilMec and just state for the record my utmost disappointment, Mr. President.
One question.
Mr. President, Senator Alan Cayetano is seeking the floor. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Senator Alan,
Mr. President,
recognized.
I know everyone's tired, but just one question, no follow-up question. Yeah. Promise to my dear friend and future mayor. Sir, sa lahat ng tinanong ni Senator Villanueva, ano target nyo next year at paano mo magagawa yon? So kung napakababa ng 3.1%, kaya nyo ba next year ng 6.2% or ng 8% or 4%? Kasi this is a budget deliberation, di ba?
Yes.
So every single agency wants money. So why give money to someone na hanggang dito lang ang kanilang kaya? So very honestly, if we give you the resources, ano kaya nyo next year? And kahit maikli lang, paano nyo magagawa yon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, this 2023, by end of this year, we can obligate 7.4 billion or around 94%. And starting this month, we already had our advanced procurement worth of 3.5 billion for the next year, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, but you didn't answer my question. So for next year, sinagot mo yung paano yung this year. So for next year, kung 3.1% this year, kung next year nakaupo ka rin dyan sometime this time, ano malamang i-report mo sa amin? Ilan percent ang nagawa nyo for next year? Anong target nyo? Target nyo ba mag 80%, mag 70%, mag 60%? Para lang klaro, no?
We target 100% obligation for next year, Mr. President.
Okay, and how can you do that compared to this year? Anong problema this year na next year hindi na mangyayari?
May mga carry-over po kami ngayong year na ito, Mr. President. Pero by end of this year, we will have to complete that.
Para hindi humaba, sir, pwede bang isubmit nyo na lang written?
Opo.
No, na this year, kasi ganito, hindi mangyayari next year dahil ganon, di ba? Para maging example din naman, hindi lang sa agri, pero sa iba pong mga ahensya na kami naman po, kung makakatulong na ma-deliver, di ba? Pero hindi naman po pwede kasing every year, may dahilan because people don't understand process or yung hindi na-deliver, di ba? So, I mean, we can explain the whole night pero it's either nagawa natin o hindi, di ba? I mean, many here are no strangers to the bureaucracy, to local government. Many here were cabinet members, were head of bureaus. Senator Win was mayor, Senator Revilla was governor. So, you get what I mean. No? Lahat kami dinaanan niya na bakit 20% lang na-deliver mo? So, I'll stop there but please submit that kasi whether it's you who's still there or iba na po posisyon nyo, will hold your agency to that position na eto ang dahilan, bakit hindi, pero next year, eto dahilan, bakit magagawa namin to.
We will comply, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to, again, put into the records, Mr. President, 45.16% yung disbursement of funds last year, ngayon 3.11%. Yung pinagmamalaki po kanina ay obligation rate. Pag ako ay naging secretary ng TESDA, madali yung mag-obligate eh. Madali yung mag-obligate. In-obligate mo yung pondo, etc. But the main job of PhilMec is to ensure that you will be able to distribute the machines, the equipment. So meaning to say, dear colleagues, in the past year, ang na-distribute 3.11%. Kaya I'm just disgusted, Mr. President, coming from Central Luzon, as I mentioned earlier, largest production of palay in the country. So, Mr. President, I will just ask the resource person to just give us a data comparing the current mechanization level of each region and the volume of production as well as the mechanization strategies for each region for next year. Para naman mabantayan ho natin at pag nagreklamo sa atin, yung mga kababayan natin, ituturo natin at patatawag natin, hihingi ako ng tulong sa sponsor natin, sa chairperson ng Committee ng Agriculture, na ipatawag po natin, magkaroon tayong pagdinig dito at kinakailangan mag-file ho ako ng kaso, gagawin ko po yan. Thank you, Mr. President. And with that, I move that we... Spend ko muna. Dubos, wala na.
Yes, na.
No, wala na eh. Wala na dito. No, wala na eh. No, but wala na eh. Should I lift the rules or not anymore? Because we are... I will not move to lift the suspension of our rules, Mr. President, but instead, we will move to another agency, Mr. President, which is the Philippine Coconut Authority, led by its administrator, Bernie Cruz. May I also move that we recognize Senator Mark Villar to ask some questions, Mr. President. So move, Mr. President.
Yes, Sir objection, there being none, motion is approved. Senator Mark Villar is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. This is the second time that your agency was called here to the Senate. I'd just like to ask, where were you the first time po? Hindi po kayo naka-attend sa first hearing ng Department of Agriculture?
Good morning, Mr. President. Apologies po na hindi ako naka-attend the last hearing, budget hearing, for medical reason. Medical leave po ako.
Medical reasons?
Opo.
Sige po. Magkano po ang budget ng Philippine Coconut Authority ng 2023?
Ang budget po namin, ang total is around 3.8 billion pati yung mga continuing.
At ano po ang composition ng 3.8 billion?
Yung current appropriations po is 1.1, 66275. Yung continuing appropriations po is 615, 114, 231. Ang trust fund po is 1250.
Ano pong major components ng budget ng PC?
Ang major component po is yung planting, replanting, and hybridization.
Opo, at meron din po kayong medical? Medical po ba? Meron din kayong budget?
Meron po kaming medical galing sa CFIDP.
At ano po ang utilization at disbursement rate ng medical budget ng PCA?
Meron po kaming mga program na kausap namin ang PhilHealth at kausap namin yung mga ibang direct na mga hospital sa region, yung DOH. Ang problem po namin is pag may problema po pareho sa utilization dahil pina-flag down kami ng aming COA.
So, magkano po ang budget sa medical, para sa medical ng ating mga magsasaka?
500 million po.
At sa 500, magkano na po ang na-disperse ng PCA?
Mahigit po 10 million. 10 million. Kasi po, actually...
That's 2%. Tama ba? 10 million. That's 2%.
Katulad po ng nabanggit namin, Mr. President.
Mas malaki pa yung disbursement ng PhilMec, 3%. Kayo, 2%. 2%.
Sa medical po, katulad po ng nabanggit namin, Mr. President, may problema po ang implementation namin ng medical dahil magkaiba po yung nasa batas at saka yung nasa plan na na-approve ng Presidente dati.
Kailangan siguro gumawa kayo ng paraan. Kasi dahil kawawa naman po ang mga farmers natin kung 2% lang, yun yung pang medical nila. At malamang ang dami rin mga magsasaka na nagkakasakit at nangangailangan ng tulong. At I think, Mr. President, 2% of disbursement is an unacceptable number. Especially knowing that many of these farmers need this medical help. So ano pong plano nyo, sir, para patapos na rin po yung year, so maglalapse na yung pondo?
Actually po, Mr. President, naka-ready po kami pareho kung i-disburse namin sa PhilHealth. Pero ang advice po ng ating mahal na oversight ay wag na sa PhilHealth, direct na sa mga sa hospitals, kung saan yung mga regional hospitals na pwedeng puntahan ng ating mga coconut farmers. Ang problem po is with consultation, yung sa COA, nagkaroon po ng meeting at plinag-down nila. So hindi po talaga namin magalaw kahit na gustong-gusto namin. Actually, pwede namin magalaw 100%, pero yun po ang naging problema namin, Mr. President.
I see. Well, I suggest that you coordinate with the COA. Ganun din naman kami, no? Ako po yung secretary. Minsan may mga issues. Pero ito yung mga issues kaya naman ayusin. At I just think that it's nakaka-shock naman na 2% lang ang nagamit natin. Kawawa talaga yung
Senator Villar.
Yes.
Yes, Senator Villar is recognized.
I just want to inform the public that I wrote the law. There was no intent to give it to PhilHealth. It was meant to be given to the small coconut farmers as medical assistance in addition to their PhilHealth, kasi lahat tayo member ng PhilHealth, di ba? May entitlement tayo sa PhilHealth. Pero yung bibigay natin sa coconut farmers, it was not meant to be given to PhilHealth. Yung PhilHealth nga, very controversial na yan kasi hindi maganda implementation nila. Bibigay pa natin yung pera natin doon. Ayusin nyo yon.
Opo, ma'am. Mr. President, kaya po nag-adhere kami sa advice ng mahal na senadora. Kaya po hindi namin ma-disburse. Pero sa plan po kasi talagang nakalagay, in-approved na plan, which is parang siya ang tumatayong IRR. Nakalagay po sa plan na sa PhilHealth ilagay.
Well, nakakalungkot lang po, but gusto ko rin makita yung action plan ng PCA para ma-disperse yung funds. Para sa akin, hindi po katanggap-tanggap na meron tayong pondo para sa kalusugan ng ating mga magsasaka at hindi natin na-disperse, hindi natin ginagamit. Ito, mga mahihirap din yung mga magsasaka natin, kailangan na nila yung medical benefits, yung mga medical assistance. Dito, ang dami humihingi. Madali naman i-disperse yung medical dahil sa dami ng humihingi. Kaya sana, I'd like to see, Mr. President, the action plan for the PCA for dispersing this medical assistance. And I was also concerned dahil in terms of production, may nabasa po ako na yung bumababa po yung export ng this year, bumababa po yung export ng ating ng coconut products. I'd like to know kung bakit po nagde-decline yung exports natin for the first 4 months of 2023 as compared to the year before.
Opo, Mr. President, bumababa po talaga yung nagde-decline pati yung ating productivity. Kaya po may mga plano kami na patasin yung ating at yung mass planting and replanting at yung fertilization po. Yun ang primary namin na ginagawa.
Opo, madaling sabihin po yun na itong pero kailangan, ano pong disbursement ng mga seeds? Baka 2% din po ba yung disbursement ng sa ating mga seeds?
Sa ngayon po, ang aming obligation rate is 53 as of this date at 29% yung aming disbursement.
Ano pong disbursement?
29.73 po.
Dapat medyo itaas natin ang ating mga standards dahil yung 29% mababa pa rin, sobrang baba pa rin. At yung 2%, talagang hindi ko alam kung paano i-describe yung 2%. Hindi lang mababa, talagang I don't know. I don't have words to describe yung 2%. Pero sir, sana po magbigay po kayo ng action plan sa Senado dahil nakakalungkot na ganun lang yung disbursement natin sa ating mga farmers. Our farmers deserve better than 2% for their medical benefits and 29% for their seeds. We need to improve the performance and I hope we can submit the action plan to the Senate at the soonest possible time. So kailan po isasubmit yung action plan, sir?
Magsasubmit po kami ng action plan before the end of this month, Mr. President.
Sana by 2 more weeks, so in 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks.
I assure you, Mr. President.
Sige po, Mr. President, I will eagerly await this action plan and I hope that we can, and I really hope for the sake of our farmers, sana mag-improve ang performance natin sa PCA. Maraming salamat po.
As a minority floor leader used to say, use your coconut.
Mr. President, before I move to lift the suspension of our rules, let me just state for the record, Mr. President, what the President of the Republic of the Philippines has been saying all along, that agriculture is a priority, Mr. President.
Yes.
Agriculture sector is a priority of this administration. When we heard that the disbursement performance of PhilMec is 3.11%, Mr. President. And PCC on health, 2%, Mr. President. PCA, Mr. President, 2%. Mr. President, baka hindi ho priority. Paano pa kung hindi priority? Yung 2%, 1% na lang. Yung 3%, baka 1.5% na lang. I hope we do something about this, Mr. President. We will look into their performance next year, Mr. President, and I will be the first one to give them a 1 peso budget next year if they continue to have this kind of performance, Mr. President. With that, Mr. President, I move. Mr. President, Senator Coco Pimentel, our minority leader, is seeking the floor, Mr.
Yes,
I promise, Mr. President, while I was using my kokote, bigla ko lang naisip po, Mr. President. Hindi tinatawag ang attention ninyo ng budget ng DBM na masyado kayong behind your spending plan? Wala? No action from the DBM calling your attention? Kasi, ganito po sir, ang aking sa mga budget hearing, kuminsan tinatanong, sa June 30, gitna ng taon, 35%, 40% ang kanilang budget utilization, mga ganyan. So, ang sagot ng DBM, don't worry, we will ask them for a catch-up plan. Piyan nyo, 40%, magiging 60% sa second half of the year, mga ganun. Pero ito, November 3%, natin sasabihin natin, we will have a catch-up plan, 97% in 1 month. Yung isa 2% to 98% in 1 month. I mean, so, siguro it's time also to challenge the DBM to have some better monitoring of the usage of the budget, Mr. President. Kasi I don't know kung applicable yung tanong doon na ganun, but we have a catch-up plan. Pero ito nga, so ang sagot sa atin there will be a big surprise by December doon sa 3.11%. Something big will happen in December. So disproportionate po masyado. I mean, it's either it's too good to be true, or number 2, you will be wasting a lot of money. Patapon na po yung gastos natin kung ganun po ang ating approach, Mr. President. So just a reminder na, parang paggastos yata ng budget ng gobyerno, may mga proportions yan, ratio and proportions given the time of the year, Mr. President.
No, and I totally agree with you, my distinguished minority floor leader. Alam mo, yung pondo na yan ay para sa ating mga magsasaka. Is it the director, the head of the PCA ba? Director bang tawag sa'yo, sir? Or chairman? Or chairperson? Or
Administrator po.
Administrator, that's right. Alam niyo po, ang pinakamahihirap na mga magsasaka ay ang mga coconut farmers. Sila pinakamahihirap. Naalala ko yung sinabi ni Senator Bato de la Rosa noong isang araw. Ang sabi niya na dapat may malasakit, na dapat may pagmamahal ang ating government employees sa ating mga kababayan na nangangailangan. It's as simple as that. We don't have to warn you, we don't have to tell you, we don't have to get angry at you every year. Dapat kusang loob na po, with due respect po, kusang loob na ng lahat ng government agencies, ng lahat ng government officials, ang pagmamahal natin sa ating mga kababayan. Kung ako po yung head ng agency at hindi ko ginagastos yung pondo na para sa mga kababayan natin na mahihirap, lalo na sa mga magsasaka ng coconuts and copra, kawawa naman po sila. Dahil yung pondo na yun, mawawala po sa kamay mo, pupunta po ulit yan sa National Treasury, and we lost the opportunity that year na matutulungan nyo yung mga coconut farmers. There'll be no one to blame but yourselves in the authority. Kaya, dapat may pagmamahal sa puso ninyo. With due respect, sir, kami, we work very hard. Yung pondo namin lahat, whatever entitlement that we already, what you call institutional amendments, meron kami na yun for the Coast Guard, ng barko, meron kami for the Armed Forces, meron po kami para sa mga farmers, meron po tayo para sa iba't ibang mga advocacies. Dahil sa pagmamahal po namin yan, hindi po racket yan, hindi po kami naghahanap na magkaroon ng income. Gusto lang natin tulungan ang ating mga kababayan. In your case with the DA, and alam mo naman ako, administrator, I'm also an agribusiness guy, LB boy. Ako, by education, by profession, I'm into agriculture. Kaya, hindi ko maintindihan such a rich country like ours na bibigyan naman ng pondo para sa tamang programa. Nandyan po kayo, may experts kayo sa agrikultura. Hindi ko talaga maintindihan bakit hindi natin magagawa itong mga programang ito na nagiging successful at lalong nagiging mas mahirap ang ating mga magsasaka. I can't understand. It really boggles the mind. Why? Because it boils down na sa tingin ko, kulang ang puso natin para sa ating mga kababayan when it comes to government service. The loan clerk that refuses to talk to yung nakapila po dyan dahil hindi niya type at hindi niya aksyonan yung mga request ng mama na nakapila dyan ng buong araw, all the way to the passport section of the DFA na who refuses to handle your papers because bad mood lang siya, to the agriculturist in the DA who refuses to release the budget to the beneficiaries that's supposed to be for them. It's not your money, it's not our money, it's their money. Pera po nila yan for the program. Give it to them. Dapat yan i-release ka agad para maramdaman po nila ang tulong ng gobyerno sa kanila. Yun lamang po. I'm just frustrated because we're ending the night. This is the last few budgets. Pasensya na lang po. But I've been listening to the same budget problem. The underutilization of their funds. For me, that's a failure of governance if you do not use that fund for the proper programs. Kawawa ang taong bayan. Administrator, please na po. I hope that starting tomorrow, you look at it differently and say na labas na natin to para sa ating mga magsasaka. Tulungan na natin sila. I hope we can get the commitment from you, Administrator.
You do, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President.
Senator Cayetano.
First of all, may I agree with you. Hindi ko na ulitin, but agree. Pero alam mo, lahat ng tao may talent eh. So kung ang talent yung mag-ipon ng pondo, dapat lumipat kayo sa land bank. Hindi, kasi kaya ka na sa agency eh. Alam mo, ngayon ko lang aaminin to. Last year, I disagreed with Senator Cynthia Villar Nung sinabi niya, alam mo, hindi lang yung laki ng pondo, paano i-utilize. Kasi I've been with many agencies and working in DFA, we work with all departments. Usually, pag binigyan ka ng mas malaking pondo, tumataas din yung ano mo yung efficiency mo. Tapos minsan, halimbawa, kulang yung pondo mo, so hindi mo ma-complete, kaya nawawala ng gana. But hearing the percentage today, kung ang passing sa high school is 75, ang grade nyo lahat 29%, 3%, etc. Di ba? Baka nga you're in the wrong agency. But can I clarify one thing lang, sir? Tama ba rinig ko kanina, sabi mo, sir, kaya namin hindi nabigay yung medical, iba kasi yung batas, iba yung plano ng presidente. Tama ba yung pagkarinig ko?
May batas po, tapos mayroong plan na nagsiserve as IRR.
So tama yung rinig ko.
Magkaiba po.
So tama yung rinig ko po na sabi nyo kanina. Kasi nagulat ako dahil presidente yun, sekretary mo, nasisipa siya ngayon. So, hindi, yun po ang sinabi nyo
Mr. President, ang
let me clarify muna. Let me clarify. That's what you said That's what you said.
Napasa po
No,
yung...
that's what you said. You said that meron plano ang presidente iba sa batas.
Napasa po yung plano na CFIDP, previous administration po.
O kaya nga, bakit presidente?
Para president po ang nag-approve.
So ang may kasalanan si President Duterte?
In-approve po yung plan prior administration po.
Okay. So anong date po ngayon?
2023 na po.
2023, November. O gaano katagal na po ang Marcos administration?
Mahigit na po isang taon.
Mahigit isang taon. Kailan mo bring up sa kanila na, sir, mukhang mali yung IRR, mali yung batas?
Kaya po...
Hindi, sir, sagutin yung tanong ko, huwag tayong paikot-ikot. Hilo na nga ako, paikutin mo pa ako, di lalo ako nahilo. Di ba? Ang tanong ko simple, Mr. President, kailan mo bring up sa administration na to na may problema kayo dahil iba ang IRR o plano sa batas? Kailan?
1 month after po ako ma-appoint, last year, November 11, 1 month before after ako ma-appoint, nag-assume ako ng November 14. Ang sinasabi ko po is kailangan reviewin.
Reviewin o bigyan mo ng bago?
I-review po yung kasi marami po...
Sir, you're the head. Ang mga senador ang nagsasabing dapat i-review. Congressman dapat i-review. Ang media dapat review. Kung ikaw yung head, so kung Senate President ay presidente, ako, head ng agency, dadaling ko sa kanya, sir, eto batas, eto IRR, mali. Eto alternative, sir, mamili ka. Kasi you're sworn to execute the law. So kung gusto mo mag-congressman, senador, tumakbo ka. Kasi yun ang ano ng congressman at senador, sir, mali ata yan, paki-review, pakibigyan kami. Pag ikaw ay head ng agency, magbibigay ka ng plano. So 1 month after ka umupo, sinabi mo na, paki-review dahil mali. Kailan ka nagbigay ng alternatives?
Mr. President, nagpadala po kami ng mga feelers sa Malacanang.
Sir, anong feelers? Ilang tanong ko nagpadala ba kayo ng alternative o hindi?
Nagpadala po kami. Nagpapadala po kami at actually, mayroon pong utos sa amin ang presidente ngayon na mag-submit na ng total plan, no?
Okay,
para
sir.
po yung buong parang long-term
So
plan.
sir, hindi ka nababagalan na after 1 month after kang i-appoint at 1.5 year na ang presidente, saka ka palang gagawa ng plano. Hindi ba dapat pagka sinubmit mo at may alternatives ka, mamimili na presidente? Ngayon, kung wala kang alternative at sinabi gawin ng plano, bakit wala ka pang plano? So hinihintay mo pa. Ang presidente, ilan po ang iniisip niya? Nakita mo ba sa APEC kung ilan ang inattendan niya? Medyo iba sa ibang presidente, ang daming na-attendan and everything. So iisipin pa niya trabaho mo o ikaw mag-iisip ng trabaho mo? Kasi Mr. President, hindi ako nagsalita sa Agri, but sa isang press con sinabi ko na ang presidente ay Secretary of Agriculture. Step up naman kayo. Kayo naman ang magtrabaho para sa kanya. Baliktad Parang siya PSG, kayo presidente, you want him to take a bullet for you Kung hindi ko clarify, kukunin ng media yan, yung ng statement mo kanina Iba kasi ang batas, iba ang plano ng presidente. So kung hindi ko clarify, yun ang kinuha ng media, desinisi mo pa presidente. So klaro ba yun o hindi? So kailan mo isasubmit yung plano, sir?
Nakasubmit na po, Mr. President.
When did you submit it?
Bali, after nung meeting po namin, binigyan ako ng a month. Tapos na-submit namin first week of November.
Okay. So do you see my point? That at the time na eto IRR, eto batas. So I commend you kung nakita mo mali yung IRR. Ba't hindi ka mag-submit ng tama kaagad? So isang tanong, isang sagot tayo. Di ba? But Mr. President, so that, may DICT pa, may CHR.
November is submitted this year or last year?
So, no, seryoso akong nahihilo ko. So, pwede bang pasubmit na natin sa kanya timeline? Because
Just confused, Mr. President, together with the minority leader. When he submitted, he said November. But when November, this year or last year?
First week of November this year po, yung plano. Yung total, yung...
this year.
This year lang?
So, it took nga 1 year.
Wow.
Oo. So, don't worry, may 5 years pa naman eh. So,
Kasalanan nga siguro ng presidente yan, Brad.
no, so my point, Mr. President, is wala namang pumipilit sa atin pumunta sa gobyerno eh. Choice natin pumunta sa gobyerno. Kung ito ay private, tama ba, Madam Chair, no? Di ba kung private to, pinire mo na eh. Kaya kasi malulugi ang negosyo kapag yung department heads mo, head of agencies, gano'n. Di ba? Yung nga, tumahimik ako sa buong agriculture, pinapanood ko kayo, etc. Pero naawa na ako sa presidente. You know naman, hindi ako close sa presidente. Pero naawa naman ako eh. Lahat na lang ng bintang sa agri. Hindi ba kayo naawa na in the first year, ang presidente sinabi, agriculture ang focus. Tapos lahat ng issue, sibuyas, presyo ng bigas, agricultural smuggling, sugar, panay na lang agri. Onions, di ba? So, on one hand, maaring hindi nyo kasalanan yan individually. Pero pati ba ang coconut mechanization, magiging problema pa ng presidente? Di ba? Hindi ba pwedeng mag-step up tayo ng kusa? So, Mr. President, what I'd like them to submit, yung 2 agencies na to, as a sample sa agriculture, mag-submit sila ng timeline para makita natin and sila mismo makita nila. Then next year, sana hindi na to maulit muli. Alam nyo po, nagpalakpakan ang mga coconut farmers nung yung 100 billion ay nabigay eh. And I know for a fact si Senator Villar, hindi rin natulog yan kasi ma'am, di ba, na-veto pa ata yung una eh. Di ba? So, pabalik-balik tayo doon. And 100 billion might seem so big now and in what is given, but I've been in government long enough na parang ang laki ng 10 million. 10 years later, baliwala yun. Ang laki ng 100 million. 10 years later, if you're talking about 100,000 farmers, baliwala yun. Huwag natin pong sayangin yung 100 billion kasi kung ganun din lang, ilagay na natin sa lupa. Kasi kikita ng malaki o paghati-hatian. Hindi pumayag si President Duterte na paghati-hatian na lang ng mga farmers. Yung ibang senador, hindi rin. Pero kung ang sasabihin natin, 29%, 2%, medical lang, hindi natin maibigay. Alam mo sa bansang ito, 4 to 6 people do not see a doctor out of 10. 4 to 6 people do not see a doctor. Namamatay that they don't see a doctor. And if you look at the 4 Ps, yung coconut farmers are always there are the poorest of the poor. Except that some of them kasi sumasideline na. Coconut farmers, tapos ano din sila, what you call this, tricycle driver, jeepney driver, di ba? So, kung sa poorest of the poor, hindi natin maayos to. And kung priority na to, priority na nga, presidente na nga ang ganyan ang attitude natin. I feel as disgusted as my colleagues here na bakit ganon. So, hindi kita kilala, sir, familiar ka sa akin, pero I have nothing against you, pati sa mechanization. Pero, sumapol kasi, pati sa statistics, I hope there are some statistics na hindi na-share ngayon na meron namang magandang performance. But give us that timeline and then I hope yung buong Department of Agriculture, may bago naman kay Secretary, naka-full-time yon, nakatutok yon, di ba? But, akala ko retired na ako pagsasabi ng pagka kailangan meron ding nagre-resign, meron ding fina-fire, etc. No, but I'll just put everyone on notice, Mr. President, that following what you said, next year sa committee level pala, I think baka hindi pa umabot sa mga hearing na lang ni Senator Villar. Pag hindi, di ba, pag ganyan din ang report natin, wag na natin ituloy kasi nga, how do I put it? Ang mga parliamentarians nandito, kung nanonood yung mga taga-Thailand na sila nag-aral dito sa IRI, kung nanonood yung mga taga-Vietnam na may gera sila nung kami ay pinanganak or lumalaki, ngayon, iwan na tayo. Tapos napakinggan kayong dalawa, matatawa sila sa atin eh. Diba? So I'll end there, Mr. President, and just want to express the collective disgust in all of this. No?
So now we'd like to recognize the sponsors, Senator Grace Poe, and to interpolate the distinguished Minority Floor Leader, Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel III.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to echo the words of our Senate President and our Majority Leader and welcome the Secretary of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, Secretary Ivan Uy. I would also like to thank the DICT for their patience this afternoon, this whole day, actually, and now this morning. As it stands in the Senate Committee report right now, the budget of the DICT and its attached agencies amounts to 9,946,062,000. With that, this representation is now ready to receive any questions or clarifications from our colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I be recognized?
Yes, please proceed.
Welcome to the Secretary and to the ICT family. Well, merong mga disadvantages. Medyo puyat tayo. Pero may advantage din. Medyo wala nang itatanong, sir, because of the energy. No. But at any rate, Mr. President, I participated anyway during the committee level. So we debated some policy questions and even some specific expenditure. I think I questioned some of your expenditures. But I heard that the ICT is insistent on the grant of CIF to the tune of 300 million pesos. What is our committee report? Did we grant the request of the ICT?
Initially, they were requesting for that confidential fund, and in fact, they made quite a strong case about it. But the committee was able to find a way so that we will still be able to supply the needs of the DICT for them to be able to do their functions properly, but now in a line item budget, so that it's easier for us to be able to monitor how it's implemented.
How did we do it, Mr.
So initially, they asked for 300 million, but now we were able to return 280 million, and this is the breakdown. The components, network detection and response, that's called NDRs, and the description of which, these are devices that are plugged into the systems of other government agencies that would enable NCERT to monitor their systems. So NCERT meaning National Computer Emergency Response Team. That is about 72.3 million in MOOE. The second is the Security of Operations software. This is a renewal of the software needed to run the NSOC. The NSOC meaning National Security Operations Center, similar to a command center. This is where NCERT team actively monitors the system of certain agencies. So parang may call center sila, but it's a constant monitoring of other systems of government agencies. That is 48.2 million. And then there's the Extended Detection and Response, XDRs, extended, and anyway, this is a renewal of the software needed to